Welcome to the Devil's Work podcast, where we talk about some disturbing films we've watched.
Oh,
so
it's
you
spoopy.
don't have to watch them unless you want to.
Mm-hmm.
And you should.
You should. Everyone should.
Because they good. Yeah.
Get more out of life. Watch a fucked up movie.
Yeah.
As John Waters says.
Just think about it all week long.
Let it stew. Let it rot. Let it fester.
Stare into middle distance while your loved ones wonder what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
If you want if you want something to occupy your mind while you do dishes for the next several nights.
Yeah.
Yeah. 1,000%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's.
This episode, we're talking about the Korean 2003 film Memories of Murder, directed by the great Bong Joon-ho.
The GOAT.
The Oscar-winning
Oscar
Bong Joon-ho.
winner.
Oscar winner.
Oscar deserving.
Fuck yeah, bro.
Yes.
His award has a first name. It's OSCAR.
There's a really great photo of him with two of his Oscars, and he's making them kiss.
That's so good.
Because he's a child.
That's what I would do.
Yes.
So good. Now, kid.
Yeah. This film, Memories of Murder, it's more of a thriller than anything we've previously done. It's a crime thriller.
I still think it's very much in line with this show, though. I mean, it's disturbing enough to merit the kind of conversations that we've already been kind of talking about, and
For
like
sure.
the fact that it's based on a true story is
Which I didn't
fucking
know
wild.
until today, maybe.
Oh, really?
I was so busy going over the film, I didn't have time to
Totally.
look it up until.
Hey,
Yeah, this is everything
There's no
that
judgment
happens.
here.
Yeah, this is pretty much entirely true, which
Yeah.
is depressing.
yeah.
This is Korea's first documented, proved
Serial killer.
record of a serial killer,
It's fucking. Ugh.
and they were not prepared for it.
I have the notes right here. He would go on to do, between 1986 and 1984, he murdered 15 women and young girls. That's fucked
Yeah,
up,
yeah.
bro.
And he did get caught for one of them, but he wasn't prosecuted or charged with
To the
all of
full
these
extent,
murders
yeah.
until 2019.
The stupid
the
laws.
He was caught for murdering his sister-in-law.
Yeah, and
That's-
he had been in jail that whole time. So when they figured out that he was the serial killer, he was in jail already.
Yeah, but the statute of limitations ran out on this
Right.
shit, and it's like, that's fucking
They
stupid.
weren't able to charge him for these things. But
I
he was
fucking
didn't
disgusting.
know that, but he's already in jail for life. Apparently, one
they almost
offense,
yeah,
which honestly,
they almost gave him they gave him the death penalty originally, and then they walked it back
yeah.
Honest-
for some reason.
Jesus fucking
I think
Christ.
I've said it before, maybe on here, but to me, like as a non-religious person, the life sentence is worse than the death penalty.
Oh yeah.
And people
for
are
sure.
like, oh, but then you want your taxes to go to like these people like having to live for 60 years
rehabilitating,
without
yeah,
being able to like.
Yeah, I don't mind that. It
Yeah,
gives them
like-
time to think about what they did.
Exactly.
That's really bad. That's the worst thing I can think of doing is having to live a really long time and like just be in like this room the entire time.
In
Yeah.
fucking misery.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely
Yeah.
rotten there.
Yeah.
I mean, beyond disagreeing with the death penalty for numerous reasons.
Yeah.
I just totally agree with that. Like, life in prison is just the most fucking nightmarish thing I could ever imagine. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know,
I hope he rots in there. May he forever fucking rot.
We're all rotting a little each day.
Yeah. But we got room to stretch.
Yeah, to be clear, and you're going to get the vibe from this movie and our reaction to it, and I think you probably already know, but we're a firmly ACAB podcast.
Yeah. This is a firm reminder.
And this, I assume Bong is as well, because this film
It seems
just
like
straight
it.
up rips.
It screams.
Rips on the police.
ACAB.
This is a dark comedy. It's mostly
a comedy.
about the police just fucking up super
Yeah,
hard, which is
absolutely.
how it
Super
went
incontinent.
It might
real
be
life.
a darker comedy than Man Bites Dog in that like Man Bites Dog is about someone who's already known to be a terrible person, like his role in society is a terrible person, and like you know, despite our feelings about police, like what they're supposed to be is like a force for justice in the community, like you know, on paper, put it in quotation marks, whatever, but it's like to see these people's, you know,
who you're supposed to be rooting
sides.
for.
Exactly. Like
this is who you call when you're in trouble.
These are the heroes in the film, quote unquote.
Like 5 minutes in, I was just like, oh, these jackasses are just like, they are not the heroes. So I just immediately was like, oh, we are not supposed to root for them. We are, they are to be mocked.
Yeah.
They
are
firmly
just on that side. Yep.
I have this great quote from Josh Lewis, who is the host of a podcast called Sleazoids.
It's a great name.
Quote from Letterboxd. It is a detective movie less about the case than the absolute irresolvable psychological agony of obsession and failure.
Yep. 1,000%.
To a T, yes.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, no, it's phenomenal. I mean, without giving too much away, the ending really cements it as like, this was never about the case, you know?
Yeah, this is about some people not really trying their best.
Yeah.
I love seeing an ending where I'm just like, oh, this was definitely like controversial, or I could tell that people hated this, but like immediately I was like, oh no, I love this. This is so great. And for like for like the last 20 minutes, I was like, I know the end is coming. And like a couple times, like the score rose up, and I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be like the last line cut to black of this thing." Like, I want more. And then when we got to the end, and there was like that final exchange, I was like, "Oh no, this is like put a bow on it." Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah,
you're done. You're good.
This is like this film in particular. I get a sense of like Bong is if David Fincher was fun. If Fincher knew how to have fun,
I love it.
You'd get Bong Joon-ho.
Yeah, it feels like so we were talking earlier about it, and it feels like comparable to like a Coen Brothers film. Where like everyone is just failing upwards essentially, like they're failing into what they're supposed to be doing. I don't want to say upwards necessarily in this case, but
and this film this film and Zodiac and probably Seven have been a huge influence on Jim Cummings, and you can definitely see that.
And they're
Snow Hollow.
And those are definitely three of like the same movie, kind of like sort of like we've said before, where so many movies are like, here's this concept, let's try it, and oftentimes only like a few outliers nail it, but that's a trio of movies that, you know, two of them are based on reality, but it's a trio of movies that all like absolutely nail that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So trigger warnings.
Get ready for them, folks.
I have violence, visuals, and dialogue about victims of murder and sexual assault. We see a lot of quick shots of decomposed bodies.
Yeah, well, there's never
recently murdered.
There's never like explicit sexual assault. There's definitely
definitely
described
vividly.
And, like, alluded to very vividly. So
yes, and you see the victims after the fact.
And there's one heavily implied one.
Yeah.
And there's also some off-color humor at the expense of
everybody.
Disabled people.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah.
Particularly disabled people, which I will note is not the mindset of the filmmakers so much as the characters who are bad people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think that's something that overall in fiction people should be able to get more of a pass for. But especially in horror, where it's just like...
Yeah, you're depicting a time and a place.
Yeah, these...
And a person.
Yeah.
Like, these are the type of people, you know what I mean?
You can tell a story without advocating for anyone in the story. You don't have to... And someone can be the protagonist, and you could still be not advocating for that character.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of similar what happens in the beginning of the new... was it Chapter 2 or Chapter 1? That opens up with the hate crime, because it's pretty like it's a pretty cold open. You're just like, whoa, That's a lot to
Yeah,
handle and
that's
shit.
what
but
horror is for. Horror is
Yeah,
about
exactly.
what we're afraid of.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
but there's still a way to handle it, and I definitely never felt like this movie was like
being mean intentionally.
Yeah, it's never punching down except at like idiot police. But that's
yeah, exactly. That's warranted.
Which is yes, in the real life telling of this, the police definitely screwed up real bad, and it took them 30 years to figure it out, and they were charged later for how they treated, I think, at least 4 people who were interrogated ended up killing themselves because of how the police treated them. Yeah,
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, this is sadly, this is all true.
It's pretty much fucking sad, dude. Like,
and they do such a good job portraying like the bully mentality of these cops, and like the sort of like, you know, quote unquote backwoods nature of these guys versus the like big city nature of us and all those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderfully it's a beautiful portrayal of absolutely atrocious events unfolding. So let's get into it. I'm very excited about this one.
So we open up in 1986 in the Gyeonggi province, which is a rural area in South Korea. And it's a beautiful day in a rice paddy.
It's cinematography though, bro. Ugh.
And our quote-unquote hero, Detective Park, is making his way out to this culvert on the side of the road. And there's a bunch of kids running around, and he's sort of telling them to get out of here.
Don't get.
And he goes over to the culvert, and he crouches down to have a look in there. And there's a woman in there. There's a dead body. She's tied up. And I think she's naked.
Yeah, I think so.
She's covered in bugs.
Yeah.
And her eyes are open.
God,
the bugs were a really good effect. I'm pretty sure they were CGI, but that was.
I think so.
I don't think the actress could.
No, exactly. I would
that.
not be fucking.
Yeah, but it looks good. Yeah.
No, it's beautiful when the light goes over her face and the bugs like scatter away from it. It's so fucking terrifying.
Very, very well done, and overall, very like a very realistic tone. Nothing feels like heavy-handed or ham-fisted in this movie. Like nothing is like B-movie or anything. It's so well done for a movie that didn't require a huge budget. Like I'm sure it wasn't a very expensive movie to make, but they didn't have a huge action sequence or explosions or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like,
it's all very understated.
And you don't need that to make a good movie, like whatsoever.
No. Absolutely not.
So this is a good indicator of how this is going to unfold. He's having trouble keeping the kids out away from the scene. The kids have no idea that there's a body. They're just
like
sort of
right
curious.
Below them.
Yeah, and they found like a pair of panties in the field, and they're just playing with them. And he's like, "Hey, put that down. That's evidence." And that's gonna be essentially the whole
that's just the
whole
theme.
Vibe.
The one kid that's like mocking him and repeating everything he says. At first you're like, I hate this kid, and then later you're like, yeah, shut up, Park.
Yeah, exactly. No, fuck the adult, actually.
Yeah, and during the whole opening credits, we see him just like fumbling his way through interrogating a bunch of people like really poorly. He's taking pictures of them. He's asking them really stupid questions about, you know, where they were and how they know the victim. And he's like trying to use a typewriter and having a hard time with it.
And so good. And he's such a bad like speaker and like so uneducated that like he's trying to ask them leading questions. I'm realizing now that it was his attempt at a leading question. But he's like, hey, so this is a rape case. You think she was pretty? And it's just
it's just like Jesus Christ, bro. Yeah.
It was just like at the time I was like, what the fuck? But now I'm like, oh, he's just not good at his job.
Oh no, yeah, the entire fucking first like 20 minutes of the movie is just them trying to close the case by any means. Like literally,
Yeah.
they're just trying to.
By
And this is
force.
clearly how they always do it.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're literally like saying shit like, "Oh, you don't remember that? Like you remember that, don't you? Like, are you that
Everything
they were
is
there."
leading.
Exactly, and
100%.
they get pissed off when they fuck up on the recordings, like when they don't tell the story right, when they're telling it back. It's so funny, dude.
Yeah.
It's so fucking funny.
And we pretty much go straight into a second murder scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep.
And this is a oneer.
God.
This is a long take scene. It's gorgeous.
That's
Fucking
so
beautiful.
I didn't even like catch that because I was so busy. Like my mind was running in so many directions.
yeah.
I didn't like think about that, but it must be like 3 or 4 minutes, huh?
It's
Yeah.
very long.
Yeah, Park shows up to the scene of the crime. Everyone else is already like there's a bunch of press lined up on the road. These fields, they're sunken below and the road is elevated.
Yeah, this
So
this
cool.
one's some kind of field. They say later what it is. It's some kind of the first one's a rice paddy, and then this is some kind of field.
Yeah, there's some kind of crop growing in there in the low, and it's very wet and muddy down there.
Swampy.
Yeah. And everybody's there. Police are there. Press are there. There are kids running around everywhere.
Like
Park is like, why haven't you roped it off yet? And no one's listening to him.
The people falling in the background.
yeah.
Forensics hasn't shown
So
up.
good.
Yeah. People are falling into the ditch repeatedly.
So funny, dude.
And someone finds a footprint, which is really good evidence. And he's like, ow, sweet. And he draws a circle around it with a stick. And then a tractor comes through and runs over the footprint and erases it. And they just clearly they have no idea what they're doing.
I made a note right here that this oneer reminded me of the Wolf of Snow Hollow scene.
Yeah,
where it's kind of a similar vibe.
There's a scene where they have a body, and it's this beautiful long take where Jim Cummings' character he's a
So
deputy
flustered.
and he's just trying to keep it all together and not reveal anything to the press. The press is right there, and he's trying to get
right behind the fucking
his guys
line.
to do what he wants them to do, and he's not being a good communicator, and just
No.
the camera's just roaming all
It's
over.
just following him as
It's
he's
so
having a
good.
fucking anxiety attack, and it's just like this scene in Memories reminded me of that.
Yeah, I didn't
so
realize
much.
till I saw this again. I'm like, yeah, that's probably what inspired him.
Definitely has to be.
So yeah, and then it's very much like there's a lot of comedy in this scene, but as with all of the scenes like this in this movie, when they show you the body, it's a very, very serious thing.
All of that goes out the window.
It just
Yeah.
Bong Joon-ho, I don't know how he does this. When he switches to serious, it's instant and it works. He's like, okay, we're done laughing for a second. Look at this. It's a
Yep.
dead person. And
It's-
you're like, oh my God.
It's this interesting way. I think I was going to comment on this earlier, but it's this interesting way that it's funny, but none of the characters are telling jokes, and nobody's having
Yeah.
a good time,
Yeah.
and no one's
It's true.
no one's laughing to each other about anything. It's it's like they just do shit, and it's so spontaneous that you have it's like a jump scare. It's like the opposite of a
Yeah.
jump scare. There's things.
so
There's
funny.
certain things that they do that I
Such a
don't
good
that I
point.
don't want to spoil. But when they happen, you just immediately burst out laughing.
It is.
But
oh yeah,
but
we're
no
gonna
one's
get into
no
it right
one's
now.
no one's laughing, and often chaos sort of breaks out when
Yeah,
these
everyone's
Yeah.
really
it
frustrated.
gets really serious. So you're like, ha, oh God, whoa, shit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
Throws you off.
He's a master of tone of just flipping that light switch in your brain, and it's funny that they're falling down. It's a very measured use of the comedy of errors type of thing, where it's every time this guy's trying to walk up the stairs, he's falling down the stairs type thing. But it's it's not as wacky as that, to be Monty Python, but it's all these humanistic errors that can happen, and it's becoming bleaker and bleaker, but it's happening in a funny way where it's you can't help but just be oh my God, and laugh a little.
Yeah.
And then
Exactly.
so you're you already know there's no chance that they're going to catch the person that did this, and then you see the body, and it's just
Yeah.
and so it's this just like constant sloping downward.
You're just
Descent,
feeling so hopeless about it. You're like, oh, the poor people who live here have to have these guys as cops.
Yes.
Yeah, the laughter,
God
the
help
laughter
them.
is the joy leaving your body. Is what's happening.
That's so good.
Starting with a woman in a culvert, and now this woman she's wearing a red coat and red shoes, and she's got hands and feet tied, and she's got her underwear is put over her head. She's otherwise dressed, fully dressed.
It's harrowing. It's
Yeah.
just fucking such a shocking image.
Yeah. And then we're back at the police station, and Park is looking over his little book of mugshots, and he's like, he's studying the faces really hard. And the chief is like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, I know that if I look at them long enough, it'll come to me all of a sudden. I'll instinctually know which one of them is the killer, which means he's certain that one of the people in this book is already the killer. And he's just like,
Trying to make it
it's
fit.
just going to come to him. And he's like, they say I have shaman eyes.
Yeah, that's
Such
what
a
makes
good
me a
line.
good detective. I don't have to be smart because I have like these instincts.
My
Yeah.
intuition.
And the chief is like, oh yeah, really, which one of those guys over there is the rapist, and which one is the guy who dragged him in here? And he's like, all right. And he like settles in to stare at them, and then they just cut to the next scene.
Yeah, you never get that resolved. I love that. I love that so much.
Which is
dude.
like a nice foreshadowing, but also it's like, I was like, oh yeah, he's wrong. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
not
He has
exactly.
no idea what he's
Exactly.
talking about.
Yep.
even
Yep.
50-50, this guy's not going to get it right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's still
And this is-
100-0 for him.
Yeah. But this interrogation scene is a firm reminder that it's still ACAB over here.
So yeah, I'd like to point out at this point that all of the good information in this movie comes from the women in their lives that they're firmly ignoring.
Yeah.
100%.
Yep.
He gets Park gets a tip from his girlfriend, who is a nurse, who comes over and gives him free flu shots and IV drips to make him feel tip top.
Who we should comment on, though, that they do present her in a way that like it seems like she's like just shooting heroin into his ass. Like
It's a little difficult to figure out what exactly she's doing.
Like
for
she
him.
says she's giving him a flu shot, but that's like not a thing people would really do at home normally. And he's such a scumbag, we already know. And by this point, I had already written down, like, okay, none of these guys are the hero. Like, they're not solving anything, clearly. And, you know, like, she says, he says something about, like, oh, everyone in town goes to you. Like, they all say you must be pretty good, huh? Or something like that.
Yeah, it makes you sound like a sex worker, for sure.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
especially because they're having sex. And then,
Yeah.
and then he also is having trouble having sex with her. She's on top doing all the work, and he's like mentions like, oh, like I slipped out, like, oh, and it's just like it's like, dude, you're just
So funny.
absolutely useless. But yeah, I'd said this before we started the pod, but I just wanted to say it on here that it's because of our perception of him that we would think this thing of her, which honestly, being a sex worker isn't really like a bad thing, but
Not at all.
within especially like 2003 and probably in like a
Different times.
different time, different part of the world, I feel like
Yeah.
it was sort of meant to be like a negative connotation.
Oh, there's definitely negative connotations to that, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. But he's just sort of like,
but it is a flu
anytime
shot.
that he,
Yeah, exactly. But
he just
none of that
gets
is true.
those free hospital handouts from her.
Jesus Christ, like, if you
Yeah.
had free health care and you're
Yeah.
fucking, like, hell yeah, I'd be taking this shit.
And she points out to him, he kind of like, when he's hanging out with her is when he's sort of debriefing about what he's been doing at work, and she gives him advice sometimes. She's like, I heard that the family out there near where the murder happened, the family that has the meat market, their son, he used to follow the victim around. So you might want to go check him out and see what's going on there. And so he's like, yeah, because he hadn't really been thinking about how to go about
Oh, yeah.
really investigating this. So he's like, yeah, I'll take that lead.
And it's funny because that's his shaman eyes, is that
Yeah.
his wife initially thinking she's a sex worker, so that's how she's getting this information. But now we know she's a nurse, and everyone's probably gossiping to her and all of these things,
Yep.
Yeah.
So she has all these rumors and all this secondhand information on people. And that's probably what guides a lot of his investigations and shamanize and intuition. Because, I'm sure he didn't go into work and be like, oh, my girlfriend told me about this. He just came in and was like, we're going after this guy. I just know it, because that's the kind of guy that he is.
Park goes and finds Kwang Ho, the son of the family that owns the restaurant. And he is...
God, it's so sad.
He has an intellectual disability. And so he, probably having no idea what he's getting himself into, goes with Park back to the station. And Park just takes him down into the boiler room where they do their interrogations.
Yeah.
And he just kind of keeps him there. He's in his tank top and boxers. And Park is kind of swatting him with a ruler. Just a little light torture to start with. And be like, yeah, you know why you're here? And this kid has no idea why he's here.
No clue.
He doesn't know what's going on at all.
So fucking sad.
And then Detective Cho comes in. And Park is like, here comes my buddy. And he makes it sound like Cho is like the good cop of the group.
He would never hurt anybody without just cause.
And Cho's immediate opening move is to kick Kwang Ho in the face.
Flying kick to the chest.
And knock him off the chair.
And that's one of those laugh out loud moments. How can you not?
Exactly.
He just walks down the stairs so casually.
This is your introduction to this character.
Flies into him.
Yeah.
Fucking A.
And
that is so wild.
And Park opens up a drawer and pulls out a booty for Cho to put over his boots.
It's like a construction booty. Yeah.
They just keep that down there.
Oh my God.
Because Cho kicks everyone.
Yep. Yeah. And that was so brutal. That was such a just sock full of quarters, pillow sheet
so
with
it'll leave a mark.
Pillow sheet with soda cans.
Exactly.
If I was seeing correctly, there was also, this didn't come into play, but I think there was a vice on the edge of the table that they probably use on people's fingers.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Jesus.
I would not be surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me at all.
Because they spend a lot of time down there.
Exactly. This is way too familiar for them to have a fucking booty on hand. Okay.
And
they're also psychologically abusing him. Cho's like, look at this ugly motherfucker, which is stupid because Cho is ugly.
Yeah, they're no prize winners themselves.
Exactly.
And this is the moment where they shift from inept cops to just an egotist,
fucking asshole,
to just actual villains, where it's just oh, okay,
yeah, they're pieces of shit.
And
so then
they've never solved a single case. I saw something recently that was like, how did you get wrapped up for a murder in the 1800s? Are you serious? And someone was like, you didn't. Someone else did. They just grabbed somebody. They didn't have. It's the same thing. It's the Wild West. You kill somebody and leave town. They're just gonna grab whoever was closest by and be like, "Oh, what are you doing here? You must have did."
And probably public execution as well.
Case closed. If these guys had their way, this case would be closed right now. That would have been the end.
That's literally them trying to
That's what they're going
They're
for.
trying to close this case because it's just too much fucking paperwork.
Yeah. So this is where we're back out in the fields and it's all rainy and misty. This is a beautiful shot, by the way.
So many beautiful shots in this movie.
Dude, this movie is gorgeous. It looks like it was shot last year sometimes. It's so good.
I think we already had it, or it's here, where there's an establishing shot of the fields where it shows that the culvert they find the first body in, and there's the marker,
the scarecrow
kind of
thing.
That's
it's the cover on Hulu that they showed.
That shot is
this is the scarecrow is dressed up in red and white and kind of looks like the victim, also kind of looks like a handmaiden, from Handmaid's Tale,
and
it has a message written on it that says, "We will fucking find you and kill you."
Yeah, it says, "Turn yourself in, or you'll rot and die."
Yeah.
God damn, that's a fucking line right there.
And there's a woman walking out here by herself, and she's understandably freaked out because she's walking alone right where it happened.
A little nervous.
And there's a man following her, and she's like, "Oh my god!" And he's like, "Hey!" And she's so freaked out that she falls into the ditch. And he's like trying to help her out of the ditch, and she's like, "Get away from me!"
Yeah.
And he's like, "I'm just trying to get directions," because he just came into town. And she's still trying to get away from him, even though he's trying to help her up. And then Park drives up, and he's like, "What the fuck is happening here?"
And he calls it from long distance.
Yeah. That's so good.
He comes
flies.
Dude, he fucking goes flying. It is ridiculous. There's no lead up. There's no nothing. He just shoots off that fucking cliff.
He drop kicks the man in the chest.
Drop kick first, ask questions later.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's like, "You fucking pervert," and he cuffs the man, who is like, I'm just trying to find where to go," and the woman runs off, and he's "Ma'am," he like cuffs the guy to his side mirror on the car, and he's like running after the woman. He's like, "You have to make a statement. Victims have to make a statement," and she's like not interested in doing any of that.
I thought he was gonna drag him. I was ready. Like we had already seen such debauchery that I was like, I was ready for it to evolve to that immediately.
Exactly.
Yeah. Clearly, things can get out of hand really quickly in this town. So then we find out that this is this man that he drop kicked is Detective Suh straight from the big old city of Seoul.
Yep.
And he's come to help with the investigation.
He's like, "Oh, my bad, dog."
Yeah, Park is like, "Why didn't you tell me?" As though there was any time.
Yeah,
He started with a drop kick. And I'd like to mention that Bong Joon-ho wanted this encounter to be super genuine.
This is a great little tidbit. This is so much fun.
The two actors had never met before they did this scene, and Song Kang-ho, who plays Park, he decided he was going to do a drop kick. That was not planned. That was not Bong's idea. He just drop kicked this guy in the chest, and he was
hi.
Yeah.
It was a real ass like high flying maneuver.
Yeah.
That shit was
And
just
Straight
from
up.
the top ropes.
Exactly.
The other guy I think was starstruck. He's like, "It's so cool. I got beat up by the Foul King."
Oh my god, he's just like,
That's hilarious.
"Hey, that's that guy. Really? What the fuck?"
Yeah. So instantly, these detectives are not getting along because they have very different mindsets about.
Two different approaches.
Yeah.
The exchange in the car is really good too because he's like, "What kind of cop doesn't identify himself sooner?" And then he spits back, "What kind of cop has such a bad eye for criminals?" And that's already what we know
really
is like
indicator.
his pride.
That's Park's thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a good. I forgot that line. I was trying to like write this note, but that's such a good fucking line.
And then we get to see why Park was out here in the middle of nowhere in the first place. Is he has one of Kwang Ho's sneakers, and he's planting a fake footprint that he can take a photo of because he wants that footprint he saw earlier, and he's just gonna make it be Kwang Ho's so he can like close this case and Suh is watching like. This is how we do things out here. But he doesn't say anything.
Yeah, he just watches so much corruption in like the early parts of the movie, just sitting there smoking, just being like, you can tell he's always like at a distance, but he's just like, "I'm not a fool. I know what you're doing. Like, you guys are just pitiful." Like,
yeah.
Yep, 1000%.
You know, it's that hot fuzz situation. One of them's real good, and the rest of them are like, eh.
Yeah, exactly.
We're eating Cheetos over here if you want some.
Use chopsticks. It keeps the gunk off your hands.
So funny.
So
life hack.
Exactly.
He brings Suh to the station, and he drops the camera off with Officer Kwan, and he's like, "Develop these pictures." And then he goes back down into
They treat her like shit, man.
Right. She's actually a good officer.
She's the only competent one.
They act like she's a secretary.
Yeah.
And she's probably the only one who graduated high school.
Exactly.
Yeah. She took Police Academy seriously. Mm-hmm. Not the movie. The school. So they're watching TV and eating noodles with their suspect, Kwang Ho. They're watching a cop show, in fact. And they're like, I love this theme song. They're just being, they're just killing time. And then as soon as the photo is developed, they sit down for interrogation time. And he's like, this is your footprint, isn't it? And Kwang Ho's like, he has no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Because he just doesn't know what's going on. And at one time, he's like trying to remember his phone number so he can call his dad. And they're like, no, don't worry about that.
So
Shut up
sad,
and eat.
Dude.
Yeah, and you're like, how long has he been in here?
Yeah, exactly. There's no like reference for how much time passes between them. Because you just see him in a bunch of scenes with them.
Yeah, he's just there way too long.
I want to say that they say that he's been there for 4 days.
Yeah.
I think
really?
I think so.
I think when we see
that might have been the second guy though.
Okay.
Oh, the second suspect.
Because that's when the public starts to get mad.
Okay.
Yeah. Because there's no. Yeah, it was like from what I can remember, there's no like marker for Kwang Ho at all.
He's just lost for a while.
There.
And his dad probably didn't miss him because there's a little indicator later in the film that his dad is the one who burnt his face. He has a burn on the side of his face.
Oh,
he's just a generally unloved, uncared for kid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He has a little bit of a. He goes somewhere. He has like a kind
I
of.
know that he had the burn on his face, but I missed that it was his dad that did it to him.
Yeah, I think that's what he was saying.
Oh,
because he grew up in a restaurant. Like his dad probably gets frustrated with him all the time.
Yeah.
But so he's not. The interrogation is not working on him, so they're like, okay, get in the car. And they take him out to the mountains, and they're like having him dig his own grave.
Yeah.
And Suh has come along for this, and he's just off to the side smoking, and he's like, oh, wow, yeah. Yeah, you go, guys. You do your cop thing.
Yeah, I love that he keeps giving them information. Like, again, like I was saying, like, he is... he's telling the story back to them that they gave him.
Yeah.
But he's telling it wrong.
He's so they brought a tape recorder and they're like, we're gonna have you're digging your own grave. And Kwang Ho was like, what? And they're like, well, tell us what happened then. And he's generally, he doesn't have much to say, or he's a bit confused. And then here he just goes into this really vivid description of the murder with details,
and you could see them snap to attention too.
Yeah, they're like, oh, this is good stuff.
Here we go.
And he's talking about exactly what garments were used and what it was like when she died, and it's all vivid and it's all correct, and they're like they're getting really excited, and then he messes up some part of it, and they're like, no.
You're doing it wrong.
Yeah, he's clearly been coached, and they're like, well, I can't remember what it was, but something he said made the confession unusable.
Yeah, he said something like the wrong location.
Yeah,
or something like that.
He messed up some major part, and they're just like, shit.
Yeah, he's like mixing up the two. I believe.
The two crimes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
he's like mixing up the details.
So, and then we see Suh he's off by himself and he's doing some like legitimate police work. He's like studying a map of where the two bodies were found.
Yeah.
And he's looking at photos, and he's like, you get a sense of confidence from him. Like he actually knows how to solve something. And while he's working on this, there's a countrywide blackout. It's like throughout in the background, like, the setting of South Korea in the 80s, they're like always running drills for like nuclear things, and there's just like lockdowns and things. They're constantly practicing for disaster.
When we see the riots, or
it's a student uprising. Is mainly what was going on in the, like, that's what all that
during that period of time.
Yeah.
It's definitely a later on.
Yeah. But just that's like part of the political backdrop of the times is that
Yeah.
Which was an important part that Bong Joon-ho said. He was like, that was an emphasis of like, you have to understand the setting in which this took place.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why they didn't have the manpower that they needed.
Yeah.
So all this other shit going on.
Yeah, exactly. It almost seems like that real life situation informs like in Battle Royale. Like that's a big thing is like all the high school kids have like demonstrations across the country and they're all dropping out of school and everything. So I could see that being influenced by like these real life student demonstrations of just being like, no, fuck this. We're not gonna.
Everyone's disgruntled.
Like just because you're the government we landed under doesn't mean you can do anything that you want.
Yeah.
And we're confirming right now we're gonna do Battle Royale in the future.
Oh
yeah, probably.
If that counts as a horror film, I mean, I'm
pretty sure it does. It's a lot of people.
Exploding Children.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite movies. That and Clerks are my two favorite movies of all time.
When Suh shows up the next day, there's basically a fucking circus going on at the police station.
Yeah.
Park and Cho and the chief are getting their pictures taken for having caught the suspect. And then they take the press out to the rice paddy to do a reenactment
I don't
of
understand.
the rape and murder of a woman.
What the fuck?
And they have a guy dressed as the female victim.
That's what I meant to look up. Was like, is that a common
thing that they do? I have no idea,
but,
bro.
I mean, it's based in reality. So in this instance, at least, they must have fucking done that.
It seems like just in the very least to like walk everyone through what happened, then what happened next. Like first he took her over here, and then it was like this, but like. Such a disturbing,
why does that
inappropriate
need to be, yeah,
thing.
Why does the press need to be there for this thing? Like,
and like the whole town is there watching, and Suh comes stomping up to them before they do this reenactment, and he's like, "Call it off. He isn't the guy. Look at his fingers. He has webbed fingers. There's no way he could have tied these knots."
Yep.
Which I don't know how.
I don't know how
plausible that is.
I don't know how knot tying works.
I could see that limits like your motor dexterity. I don't know a lot about tying knots either, but he says something about like
I'm no doctor.
He said it's like a triple something knot. So it sounds like it's
really
like
complex.
And it's the kind of thing that like not that like people can't be savants. Like they don't mince words about what they think about his mental disability in this, you know what I mean? But he definitely seems like someone who's pretty hindered in his day-to-day handlings by his like level of disability.
And there's a really heartbreaking moment during all of this where he's been in the station who knows how long, and his dad is up on the hill and sees him and starts yelling out to him, and he's yelling out to his dad, and he's like, the whole
he's
town
like, release him, like my son's
innocent. Most people probably didn't know he was in custody to begin with, but they just see that he's been held against his will. He doesn't have a lawyer or anything like that.
Exactly. There's no due process in here has just been thrown out the window.
Yeah. And then that scene kind of just dissolves into chaos with everybody scrambling around in the mud.
Yeah, but that's what I was so thrown off by. It was like, I didn't know that was his dad doing that, because that scene makes me think there was a whole other relationship going on.
I mean, I think it just goes to show, you know, his whole life has been miserable, and he's stuck in this like socioeconomic situation where there's not help for a lot of people. They're just stuck with whatever they've got, and they're living these kind of private hells.
South Korea is like even today, is like a very new country, relatively speaking. Like the Korean War was in the 60s, and this is in the 80s. So it's been 20 years tops that South Korea as like its own governmental entity has existed. So it's like there's a lot of trying to get it right and trying to figure these things out going on. But it's not an excuse for like the dropkick unit. You know what I mean?
There's no excuse for that.
Yeah, it's such a fucking wild thing.
Because you're like, one of the guys says, I think Cho says, I failed the 9th grade 4 times at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, none of them are winners, and the only one who seems to be like educated is Kwan, and they just treat her like shit because she was born a woman.
Yeah.
And it's like, she's clearly the
reason.
smartest, and at one point they call her a detective as well, but they just treat her like a secretary. She just gets them tea.
They generally refer to her as Officer Kwan.
Yeah, exactly. So
but
it's
I don't know if she's considered to be.
There's
if she has the same title as them or not.
They tell those 2 girls at one point when they encounter the 2 like schoolgirls later on in the film. They're like, she's a detective, you know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's right. So
and the girls are like, "Oh, cool."
Yeah, they're like, "Whoa, a female role model," and it's like,
wow.
It's funny because it is just like, honestly, if there were any young boys in this film looking up to these guys, you'd be like, they're doomed. But you're like, at least you picked someone who's competent.
Exactly.
Speaking of competence, this is when the head of police comes to town to.
Oh yeah.
Just kind of ask them what the fuck, what's going on, guys?
Hey guys, what's going on?
And Park has prepared a little presentation of the facts for the chief, and he has clearly not studied up on this beforehand, and he's sort of just like laying it out. And the chief is more looking at Park and Cho and Suh and like sizing up whether these guys have any idea what they're doing, and it doesn't look good.
No, it's looking pretty bleak.
Yeah, during the brief, Park is like, he's reading it off. He's like, they found 2 drops of blood and a drop of semen. They found semen? And Cho's like, yeah. So, like, Park doesn't even know the facts of the case.
He's not at all, like, well-versed in the actual evidence that's going on.
He's not paying attention to any of that.
God.
He's more interested in the suspects as, like, potential people to catch.
He's more interested in, and I'm just putting this together, he's more interested in being Inspector whatever from the TV show that they were watching than doing actual police work. Like, he just wants to be like, my shaman eye tells me it was you, and then have Cho kick someone to death, and then be like, so was it you? And they're like, yeah, it was me. Just stop kicking me. And then he's like, another case solved.
Another case.
That was a real quick mystery.
The hands off.
They take the chief out to see the culvert, probably at his request. And he's asking some very reasonable questions of them.
I just want to say, too, because that's the scene where he gives his theory, right?
I think so.
Who does?
Park. No,
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
Not yet.
Oh. I got fucked up.
He's like, what did the victims have in common?
Oh yeah, you're right.
Park and Cho are like, Park and Cho are like, oh well, they were both single and beautiful. Great job, guys.
Wow, what a profile.
And
solves that one.
Suh finally speaks up. He says they were all murdered on rainy nights. They were all wearing red. And the chief is like, both, you mean? And Suh is like, all 3 of them. And they're like, what the fuck? And he's like, there are 3 victims. We just haven't found the 3rd one yet. And he pulls out this missing persons report. And he's like, she disappeared on this night. It was raining. She was wearing red. Here's a map. Here's where I think she is. If you give me the manpower in a few days, I'll find her. And sure enough, that's exactly what happens. And he was right.
And Park keeps going, you don't know this town. She said that she had dreams of going to Seoul, okay? So, like, she just disappeared one night, and she must have gone to Seoul. Case closed. Like, I'm the shaman.
Because she's a beauty queen.
And I can, like, sense these things, all right? Like, shut up. You don't know. And when they're looking for the bodies, him and Cho are just sitting there playing with like rubber bands and just talking about this guy doesn't know anybody. We grew up with her. She always had dreams of going to Seoul.
Literally 1 second before they're like, we found the body, he's like, man, I miss her. She's in Seoul though.
And,
he just totally doesn't believe it.
And I got the impression too, because he was like, "Give me 2 days and we'll find her." And I was like, "Oh, 2 hours with that like manpower and that like calculated, like
if you know where to look."
Yeah. But I get the sense that like from how close they were, I mean, like it's a big field and like they could have fanned out in many different ways and been working in many different ways. But it seems like genuinely within like the first 10 minutes of searching, they found this girl.
Yeah.
Like it was just right away.
And and she'd been missing for 2 months. So she was very, very badly decomposed.
Oh God.
And,
fucking
and I learned from this movie that different parts of the body decompose at different rates. Like I knew like that like that's why it seems like your nails grow is because everything else is decomposing and they're not.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that it extended to like your different limbs.
Yeah, just the way that if something's in water or something, if something's like, it's so disgusting. Like, it's so realistically depicted too.
All these quick shots of, a body that has been out in the elements for a long time.
Oh, it's haunting.
It really is.
I will say that, like, it feels like as sort of disrespectful as a lot of other things that are going on are. Like, in hindsight, it feels like the movie kind of goes out of its way to be more respectful to, like, the victims. Like, especially when they're actually dead. Like, when she's on the table, they're not, like...
There's no humor.
There's no... Yeah, there's...
Whatsoever.
You don't... and it wouldn't be a big deal to see, like, an overall shot and for it to be a naked body, but they don't do that, because I think it is a naked body at that point because of, like, the decomposition or just because it's on the autopsy table. But they're not, like, showing you anything that could, like, in any way be construed as, like, a sexual shot at all.
No.
And even as, like, sort of the next thing happens, they do it in, like with care.
Yeah. It's all handled very much. Like we said, the tone shifts once this gets into, like, the actual true crime element of it.
It is one of the most wicked transitions of all, though, because they show all these quick shots of, like, her eye or her hands.
Yeah.
And then when they pan down, they quickly show her whole body. And then they cut to meat on a grill.
Yeah, that fucking transition.
And you're like, ouch.
Bloody meat on a grill.
Damn, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie, I got a little hungry.
And then this is a good shot as well. At some point during this conversation, Park is like, "Come on, Suh, eat up," and then Suh's just like, "I don't eat burnt meat." Just like you can't do anything right, dude. You can't do anything right. Like, cooking meat isn't hard. Pay attention. Look at it.
Just
just look at it.
Just do it. And they're eating at the place, Kwang Ho's family's restaurant, to apologize for having kept him in a basement and beat him for 4 days.
Christ,
and they bought him some Nike sneakers.
He falls out of the fucking little shed or whatever thing that he's got.
Yeah.
He fell asleep in his room, and he fell out of his room into the restaurant.
And then Suh's like, "Those aren't Nike sneakers. They're nice sneakers."
It says nice.
It says nice, not Nike.
Yeah.
It's so fucking...
It's
so fucked up.
It's distasteful. It's
so fucked up. It's such a fucked up, like...
Yeah. You can tell that Kwang Ho is still afraid of Cho. Because Cho's like, "I only beat you because I care."
Oh, God, piece of
and
shit.
And Kwang Ho is like, "I'm going to get the sneakers and I'm going to get the fuck out of here."
Yeah, exactly.
Then they go drinking after that.
When he says... So when you see me in the street, don't run away from me. It's just like terrifying.
Yeah.
That's just like not a thing that a good person ever says to somebody.
That's not okay. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's not okay just because it's over now.
Yeah.
Things don't go back to normal.
Hey, sorry you didn't end up getting hung for these crimes like I was trying to have done to you. My bad.
Exactly. My bad. Sorry, dog. You know how it gets there.
Yeah. So the guys all go drinking together to, I don't know, blow off steam from the fact that they found another body.
They gotta celebrate somehow.
Yeah, and they're getting pretty drunk, and Park asks, he's like, why did you come here from Seoul for this? Like, and he's talking about in America, they've got so much land that they have to solve crimes with their brains. Their brains are always spinning. But Korea is the size of my dick. So you can run all over the place. Korean detectives, we solve crimes with our feet.
So fucking weird.
Which is hilarious considering all the drop kicking.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. That's hella funny.
Yeah, dude,
and he goes, "That's folk wisdom, bitch."
Yeah.
Drop mic.
He's basically like, why don't you fuck off to America, Mr. Big Brains?
Yeah, is that they have the FBI over there.
Yeah. And
so funny, man.
And Bong never wastes a background, by the way. So like in the other booth, you can see that Cho is like molesting a woman back there.
Yeah, like
I didn't even notice because I'm so busy watching these two idiots fight.
Yeah, dude,
He's on top of somebody who's not entirely down for it.
Yeah.
Jesus.
It sucks.
That motherfucker, he just gets worse and worse as you go throughout this movie.
They all suck, but like I saw it described as like you think that like you guys said, you think that Cho is going to be the good cop in this dynamic because of the way he explains him as he's coming down the stairs. But then it turns out that like he's even worse. So it's
he's
like
the scummiest one.
Between all of them, it's like Park is the ego and Sa is the like super ego, and then Cho is the id. Cho is the id. He's just the wildest. He's just an animal. He's just
he really is.
Yeah.
All these
such a good way of putting
all
it.
These just underachievers who became police because like the vibe I get, because there's multiple factories that we see throughout this film. So it's just like be a farmer, go work at a factory, or become a cop. Like there's just like not really anything else going on. A lot of options. And they don't have the skill or the intelligence to be farmers, or the dedication to be farmers, or
they're lazy
factory workers. So this is what they became, and this is just like the downslide of like this society. And it hella triggered me because like when I was a kid, my sister used to always like start fights with me. But because I was older, my mom would always like be like, "Oh, it's on both of you," and all this stuff, and like that's hella how I felt about this whole thing. It's like that was the same thing where Park is just like, "Yeah, well, fuck off," and grabs him by the collar and starts shaking him, and all Sud does is like, "Yo, get your fucking hands off me." And then the chief is like, "Stop it! Stop fighting! You're both equally wrong." And it's just like, what in what world? Like you know who your guys are,
right? This is not how you chief.
You're chiefing wrong, bro.
And that's that little sense of humor in that scene. It's the two guys having an argument with two women that they just picked up at the bar, and then Cho's in the background, and then the chief pops up from under the table. You didn't know he was there the whole time, and he vomits into a bucket.
And then he's like, that's better now. Things are clearer.
Yeah, I can think better now. Everybody shut up. The killer's going to strike again next time it rains. So don't ever, the two of you, fight in front of me again, okay? I'll kill you both.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's all you get from it.
And then, of course, immediately, it's about to rain.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a fucking great shot right here. I don't know if you caught this, but go ahead. Keep going. I'm gonna
with the woman with the clothesline?
Yeah, I'll gush when we get there.
That's it. That's it right there.
No. When he's stalking. When they have him as her as prey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's raining, and someone announces the president's about to drive through, and it seems like there's like a bunch of little girls dressed up in formal Korean wear. It seems like it's going to be a nice parade. that's being interrupted by rain only. And then it cuts to Molotov cocktails and tanks.
Yeah, that's
Everyone's
right. I forgot.
protesting. No one wants to see the president drive through.
I totally forgot that this happens right before that.
Total just riot
chaos,
going on.
Dude.
And Cho is out there, and he's beating the shit out of a woman.
It's so fucking disgusting.
He's kicking her in the head.
He is fucking that woman.
He's a monster.
Like, it is so. Yeah, he's a fucking bastard.
I feel like that scene, like in hindsight, now that I know afterwards, like, because I needed to know. I was like, so what was going on in the country that's like informing all this stuff? But now that I know that that's what's going on, because it starts raining and it seems like, oh, everyone's scared and running away because the rain means the serial killer is going to be there and everyone's afraid of this serial killer. But like, no, it's just, as you guys stated, it's the coincidence that this is kicking off right at this moment. And it just goes to show that like the country has, you know, bigger problems than a couple backwoods women disappearing. Like they've got bigger fish to fry because this thing is going on, and even within the public consciousness, like they've never had a serial killer there before. Because again, like,
exactly, this is brand
new country. A serial killer is like I've heard people say before that sort of like uncontacted tribes. Like no one in a tribe like that is depressed because they're so busy doing all of these sort of like survival level things, you know, and you only get like depression and like certain issues.
Ennui.
Yeah, like when you have enough time, when enough of your like hierarchy of needs has been met, that you can like start to focus on like, oh, but how do I really feel about all these things?
I'm sad.
Because you're spending so much time otherwise like being like, oh, every day I've got to secure food and water. Every day I've got to like check on these things. Every day I've got to do these. Yeah, like you're too busy.
Just so I can make it to tomorrow and do it all again.
So it's like, it makes sense that like this, you know, part of the world has had so much going on for so long. This is the only time that things have sort of like calmed down enough for this to start happening. But even then, there's these other big things going on that they're paying more attention to.
This is calm. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, relatively speaking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And this is where they've been prepared for a rainy night, so they've got Officer Kwan.
Here we go.
Out walking in a red outfit to attract
so fucked
any
up
potential serial killers.
Throw her out there.
And she has agreed to do this. She's wearing red lipstick. She's just walking in the woods in the rain. And there is someone in a tree who is watching her.
I thought it was one of them initially.
It seemed that way.
But
they all drive by in a car.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're like, "Woo! Look at Kwan. She looks good. She looks good in red."
Well, it's the two dingbats that do that, but it's I think it's Suh up in the trees because they mentioned.
That's what I was saying, isn't it?
They mentioned that Suh is somewhere else watching her.
That's right. Yeah, they mentioned.
Because
it isn't though, because you see this person in a tree later.
Oh,
no.
You know what?
You
know what? I think you're right because Suh is in the box.
So he's hiding out in a what is it called? It's like a toll booth.
Oh yeah.
He's in that.
He's watching the road.
No, you're totally right.
Oh, okay.
You're totally right.
Yeah, you're right because I thought I got mixed up because later during this scene, which I had to rewind it. I was like, shut the fuck up. I almost missed it when like the camera pans over to the right when it's following her. He pops up in the out of the field.
Is he hiding in the bushes?
You see him hiding in the bushes and pops up ever so slightly, and then he just goes down like right away. I was like, holy shit! I missed that initially.
Yep.
So fucking creepy.
There is someone in a tree.
Yeah. Okay. So 100%. Yeah. 100%. It's him. Yeah, it's the killer for sure.
Not taking the bait.
Yeah.
And then we see them later. Suh and Officer Kwan are in a toll booth with whoever runs the toll booth. And some schoolgirls walk by in the middle of the goddamn night in the rain. Kwan, who has got a good head on her shoulders, is like, girls, don't go that way. Come in here. Just wait it out. And that's when they're like, she's a detective, and the girls are like, cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then the girls start talking about this.
They just go off.
This rumor that they heard that there's like the murderer lives in the bathrooms, the outhouse at their school, and he comes out at night. And basically,
so weird.
The adults are like, yeah, that's bullshit. It doesn't make any sense. And then we cut to a woman in her apartment wearing red, and she's cooking food. And she gets a phone call from presumably her husband at the factory, and she's gonna go take him his umbrella. And before she goes out, she looks at herself in the mirror and she takes off her red jacket.
That was great.
Yeah.
Which is such a wonderful
a good little touch. Such a good touch.
It's one of those rare times in a movie where you're like, and the character's like, I hear you.
I know.
And there's such a sad undertone to this whole movie because, she took the care to do that.
Yeah, and she's still
but that's not going to save her.
Yeah.
And this is an especially eerie scene when she goes out in the rain, and she's got an umbrella, she's got a flashlight, she's got another umbrella for her husband, and she's singing to herself because she's scared.
Yeah.
She's walking out to the factory, and she realizes someone's whistling along with her song, and she's like, "What?" And she turns.
So chilling.
She turns and she runs the flashlight over the field, and there's no one there.
It was that scene. My bad.
Yeah.
My bad. I'm always getting fucking mixed up with the timeline of these movies. I'm sorry. I smoke a lot of weed, and yeah.
As soon as she turns away from the field, you see a head pop up and back down out in the field,
like the fucking Predator.
Yeah,
it's horrifying.
Dude. It's like fucking Jaws when he's the shark.
And it's always so fucking tragic with a character that you know is smart. Because you want them so badly to survive.
Yeah.
She lowers her umbrella and she takes a good look at the factory and she's like, I think I can make it. And she runs for it.
God.
And she doesn't make it.
God damn.
He comes. They have this great shot where you see the guy, but you can't see him like what he looks like. He comes scrambling out of the.
It's like a silhouette of him.
Out of the plants at her, and he takes her out.
I feel like that shot would be so at home in like a creep movie.
Yeah, it's a POV shot of him. It's the last thing you see.
Yeah, dude. Which we're planning on doing Creep soon. So
yeah, we're gonna do it.
We will do.
So then we're next morning, crime scene. So that didn't go well. And Suh arrives on the scene, and the way he handles it is so differently portrayed than how Park handles a crime scene.
Oh yeah.
Like Suh comes in, he's got a megaphone. He's like, all right, everybody fucking stop. No one touch anything. No one move. We wait for forensics. That means you, dumbass. He's just like, one guy is like walking and he's like, stop moving.
Oh my god, it's so funny, man. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like when it stops being terrifying, it goes right back to being
right back to comedy.
Hilarious.
Yeah, and it dances, but like from shot to shot.
Yeah,
it dances from comedy to deadly serious.
Jump roping with that shit. It's so good.
We're like, haha, funny, and then we walk down the road and we're like, oh my god, there's a rock inside of the sock that she's being gagged with. That's so
exactly
ingenious and brutal and horrifying, and you forget you were laughing 5 seconds ago.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
So they can't find enough evidence on her to figure out anything new. There are footprints, but they're not very good.
I mean, this was the 80s when not even American investigating was fucking at where it, would be in like 5-10 years.
In this and in real life, they had a bunch of semen samples that they couldn't get anything from.
God, that's so fucked, man.
Yeah.
DNA was not even.
It wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
It's funny too.
And then this is. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, you go ahead because you might be about to say.
I was just gonna say like this is where Park comes up with his dumbass theory.
There we go. The theory.
Okay, I was gonna say that Suh gets another good shot at Park, where he like just looks at him and he goes, "These are genuine footprints," And then,
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
and then Park
These
and
are real
Park and Cho
footprints.
look at each other like, I swear to God, if the chief wasn't here, we'd just be kicking the shit out of this guy.
Yeah. It's true.
so wonderfully fucking done, dude. Beautifully written.
So Park has been doing a lot of thinking. He's like, you know what? We didn't find any pubic hair on the victim. I bet it's because the killer doesn't have any pubic hair. What do you think, Chief? What if it's a baldy?
A baldy.
Like some kind of monk.
It could be a Buddhist monk.
Yeah, that's right. There's a monastery right nearby.
Yeah, Cho was like, do you want us to start there?
And
And the chief is like, I mean, how are you gonna...
What are you gonna do?
they both hella stare for like 10 seconds like, are we good boys? Did we get a treat?
Can we do it? Yeah. And then Officer Kwan is like, I have an idea. Let me show you something.
So good. Yeah.
Officer Kwan, the real detective.
The most
One of
competent
the
fucking
only people
detective.
in this fucking movie that actually utilizes their brain.
Yep.
She listens to an evening radio program, and she has noticed over time that every time the song Sad Letter is requested, it's on a rainy night, and someone is murdered when that song plays.
She said someone's been requesting it, right?
Someone sends in a postcard.
Someone sends in a postcard, that's right.
And they read it off as a lonely man from the Tarung district.
Mm-hmm.
And she's already got the radio records that she pulled, and
Pulled them shits right up.
she has requested them to send the postcard to the police station, but she's
There's a
like, they're a
holdup.
bit disorganized, but we're getting the postcard, so we'll have the address of the guy who requested it. Which is all she said. She lays that all out, and the chief is like, and then Park just laughs in her face and gives her
piece
the
of
coffee
shit,
cup.
bro.
He's like, he's like, had the coffee that she served him, and then he's like, here.
Yeah, whatever.
And then he's like immediately back to the chief is like, yes, look into that. That sounds good. And Park's like, I'm telling you though, baldies.
He's such an ass.
Look,
Yeah.
no bush. All
But
I'm saying.
Yeah.
in that moment, even like, I clocked that even Suh and the chief, even though they're like feeding off of the idea that they gave her and everything, they never stop to thank her or say good job. Even the two
absolutely
that
not,
are
no.
like willing to listen to her and like field her ideas still are like a ways off from acknowledging her as a human being and like an equal. But at least they're willing to like listen when words come out of her mouth.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think it's more than anything like, oh, this is all we've got, so we may as well look into it.
Yeah.
Even though it's very compelling. And while Park literally goes to a bathhouse to stare at dudes' junk and look for someone.
Including a child, including like a 4-year-old. He like stares
Dude,
at
I was like, what is up with
Yeah,
that?
He's like, maybe it was a 4-year-old. He's just,
such a weird fucking move, though. Yeah.
He's just creeping on dudes at the bathhouse while Kwan and Suh are trying to figure out where they go to the radio station and they're like, we threw away all the postcards.
I love that the radio station is also equally
They're also incompetent.
Like it's also like you're just seeing on every possible level they are failing because everybody's failing them as well.
Yeah.
You know?
It's just it's a circular letdown.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
ongoing.
I really love, like, they say they threw everything out, and then he's in their trash, and then some guy's like, they already picked it up, and then there's this beautiful, like, just, like, thesis statement shot of the film where he's standing on a burning landfill admitting to himself that there's no way that he'll ever be able to find this thing. And that's just like the thesis of the film in regards to the police is like, that's what it is. It's all just burning trash and there's no reason to even dig through it because you're just going to burn yourself and get filthy, you know, like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's so bleak.
Yeah,
it like looks like a Mad Max shot compared to the rest
really
of the
does.
film.
So
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's so like crisp and clean. It's just such a fuck. Like my I was watching this with my mom. It's actually the second time we've seen it together. She loves it. And yeah, immediately when these shots came out, she's like, "This is really pretty. Like this is really, really
It's a
pretty."
gorgeous
And it's
film.
like, yeah, that's like something. Again, like to be able to make you laugh, cry, and like look in astonishment at these fucking images, it is a thing to behold. Like this really is a fucking spectacle.
There's a lot of
it's a
there's a lot of
masterwork.
really good shots in it that like Amanda described as being like really layered, where it's like almost like
in terms of what's in the foreground.
it's almost like a painting in terms of like
that's beautiful.
The longer you look at it, you see.
Thank you, Amanda.
That there's like
thank you so much for pointing that out, Amanda. I appreciate that.
There's like 3 or 4
so cool.
really good, like different aspects of each of these shots to focus on.
Yeah. And like the green, how like the green is kind of slanted at some point, and like the character is the only thing kind of cutting it off, while like the mountains in the back kind of building on the shapes. Like it's all like just colors, like you're so right. And I'm talking like as someone who is looking at this, like again as a photographer, like I appreciate Amanda bringing that up, because it's like, yeah, that's exactly what I was looking at. I was like, bro, their foreground game is fucking hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so cool. So yeah, shout out Amanda, appreciate it.
I will let her know.
Yeah, please, thank you.
But yeah, there's another really good layered one coming up soon, actually, too.
I think this is where Park's girlfriend advises him to go see a shaman.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and like
actually go see a shaman.
Have a shaman tell you where the murderer is hiding.
Yep.
And so he does that, and the shaman, she's like, the problem is with the front gate of the police station. It needs to be moved 10 meters to the southwest. And he's like,
so funny.
Okay. And then she's like, I just saw his face. I know he's the one. And he gets out his book. He's like, was it any of these people? And she's like, put that away. That's a bad omen.
It's a bad omen.
She's not going to look at the photos. And she's like, here, buy this charm for me. And he's like, I'm not going to buy that. And then, of course, he bought it.
He bought it.
And he
got
takes
his own at-home spell kit.
Yeah, he takes Cho out to the woods to where the last victim was, and they perform the charm, which involves it's like a big piece of paper
That is so
with something
funny,
written
dude.
on it, and then they have to put some dirt from the crime scene on the paper,
So good.
and then when it dries, it'll be a picture of the murderer's face. And Cho is like, that's stupid. And then he like helps him try to dry it out by blowing on it.
He's like, he says it's stupid, and then Park's like, hey, don't say that. You're going to break the charm. I spent a lot of money on this. Like,
Exactly. Motherfucker, better
like
not
have
be-
some respect.
Yeah. It might work. You never know. Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, what else are we going to do? Think?
Yeah. So someone comes out, like they realize someone's coming and they hide with their big old sheet of paper. And it's Suh, and he's come out into the to the crime scene in the middle of the night to be like a super moody detective by himself.
Smoke his cigarette.
He's smoking. He has a little portable radio and he's playing the song Sad Letter.
He comes out to be an anime character for a second.
He's just trying to put himself in the killer's shoes and like really figure out.
But it felt like a good misdirect for a moment of like, could it possibly be him? Because at this point, I had almost thought like Park is almost like sabotaging this case. So there's like a couple moments where I was like, could it be him? And then I was just like, he could be acting this incompetent to throw us off, but it feels real.
I did think that the first time I saw the film. I was like, I mean, he's smart, so like maybe he's not really. Yeah, maybe he's the detective who's also a killer.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's just having this like cool detective moment, and Cho is like, he is kind of cool though.
That's so funny.
And then someone else shows up and Suh has to hide, which is just
shit.
It's just like watching a play. It's just like so ridiculous.
Yeah.
They're all hiding.
Which, breaking for a second, this is based on a play.
It is
correct?
based on a play.
That's
Yeah,
right.
and they cast some of the actors from the play.
So fascinating.
In it.
So fucking cool.
Yeah. And then this other guy shows up and he pulls women's underwear
This is
out
a lot.
of his underwear that he's wearing, which is also women's underwear.
Yeah.
He's wearing like fluffy red pantaloons.
Look, we're not here to yuck anyone's yum.
Yeah, and he pulls like a bra and panties out of his fluffy pantaloons, and he lays them out in the figure of a woman, and he starts masturbating over them
feverishly.
With his flashlight is shaking all over the place.
He's got somewhere to be in a few minutes.
Yeah. And the guys are all watching, and they're like, "Oh, well, this has to be him." Returning to the scene of the crime. This is too good.
And then this is the great layered shot of the two dipshits in the foreground.
Yeah.
And then you've got him in the middle, but in the distance. And then even further, you see Suh like poke his head up, similar to how the killer had done a little while ago.
Yeah.
And that shot is just brilliant.
It's fucking yeah. Telling you, this movie's fucking pure genius.
It really is pure genius. Yeah, and Cho is like, "I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna drop kick him."
Well, because he steps on a twig or something, right?
He snaps a twig, and the guy's like, he looks around, and then he's like, "I can make it," and he bolts.
Such a good beat, yeah. And it holds for so long, it's tense, and he just
guns it, and the guys all pop up, and like Park and Cho. So realizes the other guys are out here. That's highly unusual. But they don't have time to talk about it. They all run after the guy, and they chase him all around this village, and they're just like busting in on people. And
I put for being as idiotic as they are, they're kind of well coordinated when they start off.
That's the thing about Korean detectives; they detect with their feet. Yeah. Like when they're on their feet. They're good, like they're a crew.
So funny, dude.
It's like the only is like the only good police work that they do is this section of the film.
Yeah, that's fair. That's so funny.
They like lose him in the village, and then this is like Cho's only good moment. He hears dogs barking, and he's like, wait, and he climbs up on a fence. And he's like, he went that way. He's like, he knows exactly where he is because he's good at chasing and beating people.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, and they chase him into a stone quarry where there's a bunch of workers that they're all wearing dark clothing. They're all wearing masks. Like, you can't tell one person from another.
Which, in the real case, he was rumored to be a construction worker, or I
thought he worked at a factory
or something. Yeah,
it's like pretty 1-to-1.
Yeah, exactly. This is like very much so what happened.
Yeah, the only jobs around. So even then though, even that was like the cops just being like, well, we live in a, for example, being like, we live in a coal mining town, so must be a coal miner doing these killings. Where it's just like, you haven't solved anything.
Yeah. But that's not work, though.
So this is like the only legitimately good piece of police work that Park does.
They're kind of running.
And it's really good. They go into there's this quarry, and there's a million guys in here, and they all look the same, and they're looking around, and they're just not going to fucking find him. And there's this gorgeous slow motion shot of Park looking, and you think he's looking at people's faces, and he's trying to use his shaman eyes to figure out who could it be in here. But he spots the fluffy red underwear poking out of the top of someone's pants, and he's like, there he is.
Finally, some good fucking detective work.
Yeah. And then he immediately...
He still tries to make a spectacle of it,
He ruins it immediately. He's like, okay, line these men up, and then he does, like, he pretends. He has them lined up, and he looks in their eyes, and he's like, he finds the guy that he knows it is, and he's like, look in my eyes. And then he's like, that's him. And he nods. And Cho fucking drop kicks him. He just lets Cho loose on him.
Whatsoever.
These guys just want to be pro wrestlers.
Exactly.
They do.
They've got beautiful form.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. The fucking physical acting in this is phenomenal. Like, this movie is legitimately impressive.
As someone who used to, like, drop kick people in high school, you really got to commit to it. Like, you're gonna be horizontal to the ground, and you just have to accept that, like, you're gonna fall too.
Yeah.
But in the process, you're gonna look good doing it and fuck someone up.
Every bit worth it.
Oh,
yes,
so good. Yeah, the flying fucking kicks in this are hands down my favorite part of this movie.
It's amazing. It's so fucking funny and unexpected.
Every single time. Every single time.
Every single time. It's like a running gag that's like never gets old. It never gets old.
Yeah. So now they've got this guy.
And then Sud checks his underwear, because you're right, because he doesn't know that they actually knew. And then he looks up at him like, I have no idea how this guy actually figured something out for once.
How did you do that? And Park is like, my eyes never lie.
Yeah, he was trying to like cement that fact that I've got shamanized. Like, I know all.
We hadn't mentioned it until now, but Evelyn saying my eyes never lie. That says several times throughout the movie, documents never lie.
That's his whole thing.
When they pulled out the sad letter,
like
records.
the sheet, the sheet of like everything that had like been requested or whatever.
He does say that
like
a
his
lot.
log,
because he had said it before. Then that time he slaps the paper and he's like, "Oh, see, documents never lie. See, like this is why I say that."
Yeah.
God, that makes the ending so much more fucking effective.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
We needed that in there.
That's such a good. Great point.
Yeah. So they're right back to trying to squeeze a fake confession out of another guy. Like, this guy is definitely more creepy, but like it becomes clear that he's just a pervert.
Yeah.
He just like the real life has become more exciting to him than nudie mags, and he's like, well, how? This is a kind of opportunity is never going to come again. I gotta go whack it in the woods at a murder site. Like, it's too good.
Where this girl was raped. Like, wouldn't you want to get off to that? Like,
fuck, bro, what?
And they're doing their best to get, they're coaching confession, and like even so far as they're like. They've punched him in the side of the head, and he has like a wound on his brow, and they're like working that into the confession to say that the victim did that in self-defense, and he's like, and then she hit me, and he's like, also his confession is no good because he's like in a dream state. He has no idea. What he's really talking about.
Fucking head trauma will do that to a person.
Yeah.
He won't say it the way they want him to say it, and they're like, you need to stop saying it was a dream, and he's like, it was a dream though, wasn't it? And then I was at the outhouse at the girls' school, and then Suh finally steps in, and he's like, wait, what did you say?
Yeah.
Because that was something that the schoolgirls brought up, and he's like, what are you talking about? And the guy's like, oh, everyone knows that story. And he's like, well, I fucking don't. So he goes to the girls' school to see what the deal is. And they're running a drill for a gas leak or something. All the girls are outside.
Like a gas attack. Because like you said, like the nuclear attack and the threats of like, or the nuclear drills and the threat of like attack and invasion, like that definitely is a layer. And I think that might be part of why the students were rebelling, because they're like, we're not soldiers, we're not these things. You can't just I don't really know, but that's kind of the impression I get, because we go to their school and like, they're like, pretend you're a dead body so we can practice carrying dead bodies off fields.
Yeah, just regular weird school activities. And he finds one of the girls that was in the toll booth who told him about the thing originally, and he walks with her to the nurse because she's gotten a little injury, and he helps her put on Chekhov's Band-Aid.
That's fucking great.
She's a little bit shy about showing off her midriff, and he's like, you're just a kid. And
that's so sad.
I appreciate that for once, like, I don't know, he's like, literally in this movie, he's the only character that could approach that situation and not be a creep. Yeah. But it just feels like, as well, like, I don't know, it makes sense for, like, in the first scene that you see him when the woman is walking in front of him and she just keeps checking over her shoulder. Like, it makes sense that Like we've said before, men are scary in general.
Exactly.
Who rapes women and leaves them in ditches? Men. But so that fear is like founded, and he's the only character in this movie that would be able to approach that situation and be like, you're just a child. Like, I'm definitely not looking at you that way. Like, I'm simply trying to help you. And like, you don't get at all the sense that like there's anything more to it in his mind. He's just like, you can't reach that part of your back. I need to ask you a question. Like, if the sooner we put the Band-Aid on you, the sooner you can focus on what I'm asking you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, and she's like, I don't know where the rumor came from. And just you go look at the outhouse yourself. And he's like, do I look like I have time for that? Literally, he does. He's a detective.
So you need to do your job.
So he goes out to it's actually a row of bathroom stalls in this outdoor hallway.
It must just all be connected. I was like kind of mapping it out in my head. It must just all be connected to one giant septic tank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's outdoors, it's daytime, but like it's one of those scenes that is just so quiet, and you get the sense that he must be getting that like just this like eerie feeling that maybe this is where the killer was at one point. It just feels like a haunted place, kind of.
Exactly.
And he's having this like spooky moment, and then he scares the shit out of a woman.
The shots of him just walking in that, like,
it's so quiet.
It's so quiet and so. It's just breathtaking. Every single.
I was genuinely like, is this man gonna climb down there?
Yeah, exactly.
Because this is all this talk of like someone having fallen into the tank.
You get the sense that he's in the monster's lair.
Yeah, and he picks a door. He's like lets his hand pick a door, and it just happens to be a door where a teacher she's going to the bathroom, and she comes out, and she's like, "Oh my god!" And breaks the spell.
Breaks the spell. I love that. That's so good. Yeah.
And then he's talking to her, like asking her questions, and she's basically like, "Fucking cops, you're all the same. Detective work. Who do you think you are?" And then she's like, "Oh yeah, I guess I know where the rumor comes from, though. There's a woman who always cries on that hill over there." And he's like, "Excuse me, what?" And she's like, "Yeah,
softball that in.
It's the weirdest thing." Like, and the rumor is always a little unclear to me. Like, there's a story of a creepy man who is probably the killer, who hangs out in the bathroom, and he like came out of the septic tank. And this somehow relates to a woman who cries on the hill.
I feel like it was one of those things where like you tell children not, like, there's a monster in the lake or whatever to keep them from going in the water, you know what I mean? Like, it was just like,
it's just spooky shit.
Yeah, he's like, it's just scary stories to keep the kids in line.
Yeah.
Like, and then it just kind of got out of hand.
Right. It just morphed into something else. But he sees that there's a house on the hill, and he goes to see who's there.
It just felt like an urban legend because no one can figure out this thing, and so it's much more interesting to believe that there's this like monstrous guy and all this stuff. And like, I think in like one of our private conversations recently, we were talking about like coincidence being like so valid in storytelling, and it's because it happens in real life, and that's what this like feels like, is like that he goes there because of this urban legend, and then like it doesn't maybe actually connect to this woman's story because nothing that she says like really brings it back to that, but it just happens to be that just if anything was going to bring it, anything could have brought him to a lead because they're just so directionless.
Exactly.
At
it's
this
so
point.
Scattered of a case.
Anything that people are willing to tell them. So he goes up to this house, and he finds there's a woman there living alone, and she's got her clothing on the clothing line. There's red clothes hanging up there, and she's terrified of a man coming up to talk to her. And she goes and she hides in her house, and he's like, "I'm a cop." And she's like, "Really?" And she's not any less scared. She's like, "You need to get out of here. You can't be seen here."
I mean, it wouldn't put my defenses down.
Yeah. At this point, it's been commented on, too, that, like, when, like, Kwang Ho's father shows up, he's like, "I know you tortured him. Like we know that
yeah.
you tortured him and that's why. And then people are like a few times
probably hearing that. Yeah,
a few times people just straight up say to them like, we know you just beat confessions out of people.
Yeah,
Like we know that. So it's like not only does like we said, men are just scary anyway. Oh, you have a badge? Okay, you're still here alone and you're still trying to come into my house. Like I don't care.
That makes you scarier.
Yeah,
dog.
that didn't stop the Golden State Killer. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like,
exactly.
yeah.
Yep.
So convinces Officer Kwan to record the woman's statement so that she can be a little more comfortable talking to another woman. And she recounts.
God, her attack.
She has
fucking chilling.
She's the only survivor. She survived being raped by the killer.
Yeah, this is when we first see the rock in the sock, right? Like, or in the cloth or whatever he puts in her mouth.
I think that it comes up again because when they go to that other site, they pull it out of her mouth when they're looking the body over. But we see it again as like factual connective tissue to be like it's 100% the same guy.
Yeah, all of the methods are the same. She gets tied up. He puts her underwear over her head, and it becomes clear that the only reason that she survived is because she didn't look at his face. Like, she tried very hard not to look at his face because she'd read about the killings in great detail, and she knew that, if she could identify him, then he would kill her.
Well, she said that it happened the previous September, so I got the impression that it was before these other attacks. So
she said that she'd read about them, though.
Okay,
that's it. Okay,
Yeah,
I might have to go back
sense.
and watch because I feel like that might be like I know they're happening again type thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the impression that I got was like
that she was the first.
Yeah, that it was possible.
Yeah, like it was escalating.
Like yes,
it
that it was
confusing.
possible that he didn't kill her because she didn't look at him, but that it was also possible that it was escalating. He hadn't gotten the courage yet to like go to that point, but it's not something we could really know. But like now I feel a little less confident on the timeline. I'd have to like go back and watch. But either way, she survived.
Yeah. And she remembers that he had soft hands. Like his hands were delicate.
It's a big thing, and which was a big thing in the true case.
It is a true statement from a victim. Yeah. Literally, while this great stride is being made in the case, Park and Cho are still torturing Panties Guy. They've got him hanging from the ceiling, upside down. And he's like working on his confession. He's clearly out of his mind at this point.
Jesus.
And Suh comes busting in and feels his hands, and he's like, cut him down, he's not the murderer. And they're like, what? And Park gets pissed, and he's like, you're just fucking with me now. And they get in a fight. And Chief comes in, and he's like, I told you guys I would kill you if you fought again. And they're all just like throwing chairs at each other. And then
it's so fucking like chaotic.
I love how in Bong's
chaotic.
films, when things aren't working out, everybody just starts
resorts to throwing shit.
Just a pile of violence. And Officer Kwan interrupts. She's like, stop, the song is playing. And they're like, oh my god. And they open the window and it's raining, and they're like, oh shit. Totally unprepared. And the chief calls for backup, and they can't get any backup. Like, state has no extra manpower for them. And
it's a perfect distraction with the fucking riots.
Yeah, and the radio station still does not have their shit together. They can't get the address of the person requesting the song.
So fucking crazy.
And so there's a fifth victim the next morning.
God, yeah. This one was one of the more disturbing ones.
This is a pretty cruel one.
This is fucking sick one. And when you told me that this was like also based in reality,
this is also
too,
true.
like,
Yeah.
This is just even more fucking sickening, man.
Yeah, this victim, when they take her to the coroner, the coroner notices and pulls out of her vagina 9 cut up pieces of a peach. He just pulls them out one by one.
It's just.
And this is true. This happened.
Why?
Yeah.
Like,
I just immediately I was like, there will be 9 victims. Well, I was like, that's what he's going for.
This is some Seven shit, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is very, very synonymous with like Seven themes for sure.
Yeah. And this far into the movie, this is like well in, and Park is finally, it seems, for the first time, really sobered by it. Like, this really gets to him.
Yeah.
And he asks, is this a common thing in Seoul? Does this happen? This kind of thing happen in the city? And So is like, this isn't common anywhere. Like, this isn't normal.
Yeah.
And Park finally admits that he has no idea what he's doing. And then they get a call from the radio station. Kwon went down there herself, and she found the fucking postcard, and they got the address. So, like, the moment that he admits he doesn't know what's going on is when they finally find who they're probably looking for.
Yep.
And they go to the apartment of the suspect, and he's not there, and his landlady says he's at work right now at the factory. Mm-hmm. And they go.
Which is another like, ooh.
Yeah. And it's a really great scene too. They like, someone points the way to him, and this sort of a slightly slow motion shot, and there's this guy reading in the back of the office, and they're like, "Hey, Hyung-gyu, someone's here to see you." And he looks up, and it just feels like it's probably him. Mm-hmm. He's this young.
We're meant to get that impression for sure.
This young, pretty boy looking guy, and he's just looking at them like super calmly, like he was expecting this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's a great fucking performance too. Great performance by this dude.
Yeah, truly.
And like I said too, it's like there's 3 factories and a quarry to work at. So, like, they get a guy from a quarry and they get a guy from a factory. And even though there's, like, other factors, the fact that they're not the guy essentially has the same effect as if they had just walked into the quarry and walked into the factory and just grabbed somebody and been like, we're just going to beat on this guy and tell him what happened until he recites it for us. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you look pliable.
Yeah. You're the killer now. So this interrogation is different than the previous
tense,
one.
Bro.
It's Park and Cho and Suh, and the chief is there with them, and they're all on one side of the table, and he's on the other side, and it's deadly serious this time, not the usual bullshit.
Yeah.
And Hyung-gyu is very eerie. He's handsome, but his face is like, it's like a
something
mask.
Off.
He's very pale.
Again, like I always say, lights are on, nobody's home.
He's impassive. Like he's just got no expression on his face whatsoever.
Yeah, no genuine feeling there.
Yeah, he's a very spooky looking dude.
Yeah, shell of a man.
Yeah, and they're asking him about the timeline. Like, he had just left the military and moved into town to work in the factory right around the time that the murder started. And they're like, "Does that sound right?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's not giving anything away. He's just like, "Yes, that's accurate. That's when I arrived."
He's like, "Guess so."
I will note that when they went in his apartment and they were looking around at his stuff. There's a photo album that belonged to him that they were looking through, and there's this great photo in there of a silhouette of a figure in a tree.
Oh, that's
from his military time.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And it's like, it looks just like the person in the tree.
So cool.
It's really cool.
God damn, this fucking movie is great.
And also, like, to the point, to real life, the killer had been in the military and left to work in the factory. Like, and he was like this shy dude who he found his power while he was in the military, and he like took out his frustration on people.
Still had soft hands.
Yeah, those soft hands.
Okay, I thought so, but I had to double check. All male citizens in South Korea have to join the army for a couple years.
Right.
Oh yeah, it's required.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he was doing his time.
Yeah.
Before the age of, what is it?
18 to 35.
Right.
Wow.
I was just reading about this actually. The members of what is that band? The 7-member band.
BTS.
Yeah, some of them are coming up. They're about to be too old to serve their time.
Really?
And the country's sort of divided on whether they need to or not, because they serve, they provide a service to the country as it is, as artists.
They're out here on the front lines of rhythm.
Yeah.
That's so fucking funny.
So the people are sort of divided on whether it, should an exception be made for them or not.
That's wild, because then that opens up the precedent for, any K-pop
Just get famous,
stars.
bro.
Yeah.
If you're a pop star, the rules are different for you.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and who decides how, if you're popular enough or beloved enough? It's just,
Hey, the military are just more better armed police. So, I think everyone should get the BTS exception.
Just everybody.
Yeah.
Blanket that shit.
So they can't get the, clearly, Hyungyu is no ordinary suspect. They're frustrated. They can't get him to say they're doing their leading questions thing, and he's not playing into any of it. And he even says to them, he's like, yeah, everyone knows that you torture people. I'm not going to let you get away with that kind of shit. And so Suh is forced to turn on his investigative charms. He's like, let me paint you a picture. And he starts telling the story of the night that Hyungyu, he requested the song and it came on the radio and on a rainy night, and he got so excited and he had to go out, and he was just out in the dark wandering here and there. And Park is really into it. He's like, yeah, this is police work, and he's just watching Hyungyu's face, looking for that, using his shaman eyes. He's waiting for him to give some kind of indication. And it's just not working in general. And then Suh is like, and then you brought out this, and he pulls out this bag of the pieces of peach.
Yeah.
And he whips the light he shines the light in Hyungyu's eyes. And Hyungyu understandably is like, what the fuck? It's it's too much too fast to tell whether Hyungyu is reacting to the pieces of peach or the light.
Yeah.
And then Suh starts being like, 1 piece, 2 piece, 3 pieces, and he's just yelling about the peach, and Hyungyu is like, stop it, shut the fuck up. He starts to get a little disturbed, which might be an indication of him cracking.
Yeah.
But then Cho gets too excited.
Kick to the chest.
He drop kicks him across the table.
Yeah, he starts to stand up because he's getting so upset with their question or something. He makes somewhat of a move.
A gesture, yeah.
Not at all a threatening move.
No.
Yeah. Cho's just and he needs to contribute.
And they tell him several times to calm down and go to the back of the room and just chill.
Cho, calm down. Go cool off, bro. Go cool off.
And then, he just comes flying from 10 feet back.
So good.
And he breaks the light, and the whole room gets blacked out.
It's beautiful comedy, bro. It's impeccable fucking timing.
Like we said, straight from deadly serious to comedy in a second.
In a fucking matter of seconds. It's so good.
Yeah. And then this is the last straw for the chief. He gets a taste of the kind of bullshit that's been going on
exactly
in the interrogation room, and he basically fires Cho. Or I don't know if he fired him completely, but he was like, "You got to stay out of the interrogation room."
Leave or something.
Yeah. And he so appropriately he does this by kicking Cho down the stairs.
So good.
That shit is hilarious. He kicks him in the shin and the back of the knees 2 or 3 times.
Just fucks him up.
And then he falls head first into the corner of the cement stairwell.
So fucking funny, man. Oh man.
And then Park and Suh are they've got their heads down on their desks. They're just having a little little me
this
time.
was such a really cool shot, like sequence too. I liked the way that it was like shot from above them and then like on the side of them too.
They're just having a little girls moment.
Little girls.
Little sleepover at their desks.
Just two grown men crying together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Park, the shitty policeman, is like, we just need some evidence, man. And So is like, we don't need evidence. We just need a confession.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we just
want to beat the shit out of him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Park's like, you've grown so much.
Yeah.
Well, look at you maturing.
One of us.
It's just this like weird dichotomy where they're both sliding towards the middle of this like moral scale from opposite sides, but it's just both of them like being honorable doesn't work, being honorable and collecting evidence and doing real work doesn't work, and just beating confessions out of people doesn't work. So, like, what are we supposed to do? Like, what does that leave us with? There's
We tried hitting him. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's around the time that So realizes, he's like, why did Kwang Ho, our guy with the intellectual disability, give such a vivid and accurate description of a murder when he obviously isn't the murderer? Like, how the fuck would he know those things? And they listen back to it, and they realize he must have witnessed the murder.
He was describing what he saw, bro.
Because Park swore up and down that they did not rehearse that. But again, similar to the thing with his girlfriend or his wife, like, you just don't believe him because all we know is that he's a piece of shit. But then at this point when he's like, no, dude, I was telling you, that's why I thought he was the killer, is because we didn't rehearse that. And he told us that thing.
Yeah, so it's a very exciting moment for them.
Done. Beautifully fucking done. That's a great reveal.
This just like, I did my part.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they realize they have to find him. This guy that they've already terrorized.
Jesus Christ.
They go to the restaurant.
Leave him alone.
Yeah. They go to the restaurant to find him, and they find Cho is there drinking heavily because he's been suspended or fired. And there's a bunch of like a bitch. There's a bunch of students in there eating and watching the news, and it's all about riots and like police brutality. And they're like, hey, have you seen Kwang Ho? They're just like trying to scope out, like, see where this kid is, and like he's not in his room, and they're looking around for him. And Cho just gets super angry about the news and the students talking about police. And he just fucking loses it. He takes a bottle and he throws it through the TV, and he just starts...
Jesus Christ.
He just starts brutally attacking the patrons in the restaurant, men and women alike. He's just beating the shit out of
such a fucking monster.
And then and he's also like taking out weird grudges because he's like beating on the kids, and then the like waitress of the restaurant, which is probably related to Kwang Ho, like his mom or his sister or something. He grabs her by the hair and he's like, I know you slept with him or something like that. So it's just this weird like other layer of like, and that's the kind of shit that like alcoholics and just in general drunk people, but especially alcoholics, like hang on to. That's the kind of thing that I've like experienced with family members and stuff. Is like they'll bring up something from like 4.5 years ago that you haven't,
that they've been stewing on,
as if it's like the most defining feature of your relationship,
as if it happened yesterday.
So he's like in this brawl, and he's like, and you wouldn't fuck me. And it's just like, what does that have to do with anything?
He goes full on Ezra Miller.
Yeah. It gets real bad real fast. And our guys
we gotta
like,
talk about Cho.
Oh my God.
We gotta talk about Cho.
It gets real bad in there. Just a full on brawl.
It's fucking, it's sad. I mean, it's funny because you're just like, oh my God, this is so outlandish. And then it's just like, Jesus Christ. Like, imagine being in that situation where it's just like, you're just here to have a drink. Yeah. And then you're getting fucking chairs thrown in your face, bro. Like,
it's just depressing because, like,
so sad.
He is a he is a violent police officer, and when confronted with that fact, he just doubles down on it super hard. He's just like, yeah, fuck you.
Yep.
And in the middle of this, Kwang Ho shows up, and he sees the guy who tortured him for who knows how long attacking all these innocent people, and he takes matters into his own hands. He takes a stick with a nail on the end of it, and he pops the nail into Cho's leg. Yeah. And then, Cho cries out in pain, and he's like, oh, my leg. And then the violence stops because he's the only one who's being violent.
Yeah, exactly.
God.
So true.
And like a piece of irony in that situation, too, is like...
it's his foot.
Well, not only that, but Park is like, for the first time in his life, Park is like trying to stop a fight. And there's like a bunch of people holding him because they all just assume he's riding with Cho. But you see him, he's like telling Cho to stop, and then Kwang Ho comes in and he's like trying to get Kwang Ho's attention and like try to like explain what's going on, but there's just all this chaos going on, and like he's actually not there to instigate, even though any other day.
He's trying to do real police work, and he can't do it because no one trusts him anymore.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Kwang Ho runs off because he's like, oh god, I attacked an officer, I'm fucked. And they chase him. Park and Suh chase him, and he climbs up a pole, understandably. And they're like, come down. Well, actually, you don't have to come down. Just answer our question. We just wanted to know, tell us about the night of the murder. He's like, I already told you everything.
Yeah, he's like, I saw you. I told you everything I saw.
Yeah.
Like,
and then they're like, no, we know you saw it happen, so explain it again. And he gets a little carried away, and he wants to explain it again. He saw everything from inside of a hay bale because he was following that girl all the time, and he happened to be following her when the killer got her. And he's like, he's really bummed when he says that the killer was handsome, much more handsome than me.
fucking crazy.
He's jealous, which is so depressing.
But it is like a weird extra layer of ugliness to everything of that, like nothing makes sexual assault okay or like better, but it like almost makes it worse to be like, yeah, this guy could have probably had any woman he wanted in like a consensual setting if he had like been cool about it, but instead this person who you make no mistake, like most of this shit is about power,
it's always about power.
So it's just this, I don't know, this guy wanted it this other way because of whatever sick shit is going on in his head, but it does, like, in a way, it's like hard to say it makes it worse because it's already so horrible and like the worst thing. It's like nothing can really make it better or worse, but it is just
the worst thing, for sure.
It's just like well, I mean rape, like it's
for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
It just makes it even more senseless.
No, like the violence and like you said, you could have had anybody in a consensual way, and it's like you did this instead, though, and you're a fucking scumbag.
Yeah. It's twisted.
And when they show Kwang Ho a photo of Hyung-gyu, and they're like, was this him? But he like dips into a weird flashback. He gets, he's just in, a state of remembering bad shit that's happened to him, and he won't answer their question. They're both yelling at him, and he's just thinking about how his dad burned his face one time with hot oil, and he like gets freaked out, and he starts blowing this whistle that he keeps for safety or whatever. He's just like, he's just in the middle of a flashback or something, and he's like not able to answer their questions. And then they get a bunch of students run up on them and start trying to fight them. I think the guys from the restaurant found them and are like, hey, you, fuck you.
Hey, fuck you.
And they lose Kwang Ho again, and he runs up on the train tracks.
God, that scene broke my heart.
Yeah. and Park tries to talk him down, and he's just confused, and he's blowing his whistle, and he's like pointing at Park like this guy's coming to get me, and he just gets blasted by the train.
Yeah.
And
God, they did him so dirty, dude. That's so.
Yeah, and there's this great shot of Park with he's got Kwang Ho's blood all over him, and he's got blood on his hand, and he's wiping the blood off. Yeah.
It's just so heartbreaking, man, because he ended up being such a pivotal part of the investigation.
He was the witness.
And it's like, he's treated the fucking worst and just got the worst.
Everyone
treatment.
let him down.
He just got the worst ending.
That's it was sad. All for nothing because they don't have any evidence on Hyung-gyu, and they have to let him go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So fucking sad.
In the meantime, though, they have a semen sample from the last victim's clothing, and it's been determined that, they don't have the technology in Korea, but they can send the sample to America and wait for the results to come back. And while they're waiting, they're going to supposedly 24-hour surveil Hyung-gyu.
God, that's a fucking joke.
Yeah. And who knows, America with our own backlog of rape kits and serial killers and cold cases, imagining how long it would take for, a sample
that to get back,
sent in from little old South Korea, it's not their first priority. Yeah, when they said that, I was like, oh.
They said that in the actual
it's gonna
case,
take forever.
Yeah, in the actual case, they sent it to Japan, not America.
That sounds more efficient.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know if that was. Yeah, he probably just wrote that in.
Yeah.
It's an interesting change, but I think it's just because things are so complicated between all of those countries where it's they didn't want to have to send it to Japan. Mm-hmm. I think it's easier to swallow, if it would have been sent to America.
America, yeah, because knowing that maybe, we fucked it up. You know what I mean?
And they were talking about America earlier, oh, you're such a big fancy cop. Why don't you just go be part of the FBI? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just America is the promised land of, cop shows, really.
Yeah, this staple.
It's all a lie anyway. But America knows what they're doing.
Yeah. It's an interesting choice to include that. Yeah, to change that from Japan to America, but yeah.
Yeah. And then there's another great symbolic shot where the chief and Suh and Cho are pushing Park's broken down car along this road that we spend the whole goddamn movie on.
Yeah.
And they're pushing, you can see them through the back window, and they're pushing the car, and the police siren light is in the back seat. Mm-hmm. They're pushing this thing. It's broken justice. The car is going nowhere. Mm-hmm. They're failing at their jobs.
Hey, look, there's a giant metaphor for you.
Yeah, enjoy that.
Yeah.
And this is around the time when we realize Cho has not done anything to take care of his wound in his leg.
He's just fucking
and he's got
fester.
Full on tetanus.
Ugh. And that's the first thing I thought of too. I was like, "Oh my god, he's gonna die of tetanus."
Yeah, he's I'll walk it off.
Yeah, I was like, he's gonna totally die of tetanus.
And who would miss him?
Let me see that thing, and he pulls it out, and his calf is just ballooned up.
Yeah,
gross. Dude.
Yeah, and they go to the hospital, and the doctor's like, "You fucking idiot."
Yes.
And then Park's like, "Are you sure they have to amputate?" And he's like, "You're lucky he's not gonna die."
Yeah, exactly.
This is
the
we
leg
caused
is the least of your fucking worries, bro.
Yeah, and Park has to make the sad decision to sign the paper.
It's a genuinely sad scene.
Yeah,
it's a genuinely
it's like this weird. It really
scene.
Fucks with your feelings because you hate these guys, but he has to sign off on cutting off his friend's leg. And then he's back at the office, and he's all depressed, and he's staring at Cho's abandoned boot in his...
the booty?
His face-kicking booty. And you're just like, Cho will never kick another person in the face.
Because it was his right foot, which specifically is the one he kicks everyone with.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
His face-kicking days are over.
It's so fucking well done. It's such a beautiful physical like thing to call back to. You know what I mean? It's beautifully written. The movie's genius.
It really
genius.
is.
It's genius.
And then there's this super dark sequence where Suh is taking his shift of watching Hyung-gyu, who's just hanging out at a restaurant, and he falls asleep briefly, and when he wakes up, Hyung-gyu is getting on a bus.
Mm-hmm.
And he can't start the car to chase him.
It's like he had one job.
Yeah, so he's not able to follow him. And he immediately calls Violent Crimes Department or Division. And at the same time, Park's girlfriend, who's a nurse, is going on a night run. She's going to see someone who's sick, and she's got her nurse's bag. She's going out into the night, and you're like, this is not going to go well.
Yeah, exactly.
And Suh is like freaking out at the station, and he's like, Hyung-gyu hasn't been home in 2 hours. It's only 6 bus stops between the restaurant and his house. He's clearly gone somewhere. And the chief is like, I don't know. Do you think he'd be so brash to do something like when he's being watched? Like, it's probably fine. And then there's this scene where Park's girlfriend, she goes into this wooded area because she has to walk through.
Yeah.
And she's like, it's kind of scary in here.
It's a little sketch, bro.
But I am going this way, so I'm just gonna go for it. Mm-hmm. And you see again, someone is in a tree watching her. And she passes by a schoolgirl who's going the opposite direction. These two women see each other, and they pass and they walk past each other. And the person in the tree is looking at the woman and looking at the girl and looking at the woman, and he's trying to decide which one of them to go for. Yeah, it's just so disturbing.
Ugh.
And then you see the girl walking, and in a second she's gone. He just snatches her into the bushes. Not a sound. And
the fact that it's so silent
it's
is
so
just
quiet.
So fucking eerie.
And the woman, she looks back, and she's like, she thinks she might have heard something, but there's no way, anything bad happened if it was that quiet. She keeps going.
So quick, too.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And then I don't know if there's like sirens and there's a state of emergency or something. I don't know if that's something that the police declared, or if it's just like a countrywide another drill.
Mm-hmm. Maybe, yeah. I have no idea.
But there's like everyone close your doors. Mm-hmm. I think it's a state of emergency because they don't know where their suspect is.
Yeah.
And there's these sirens going off, and people on speakers like, everybody lock your doors. And while this is playing, he's got the girl tied up and he's carrying her into the woods. And he's laying out all of his tools.
That scene is so fucking
He's got
scary.
a razor blade and a pen and a spork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus
and
Christ.
She's watching what he's doing, and she looks up at his face.
The way she's hogtied, and he throws her over his shoulder, like she's like a bag, he's using the rope like it's a handle.
Yeah.
And it's a trip. And then also I feel like it should be pointed out that it's not raining.
Yes.
But that every other night it had been raining, but there were also states of emergency or drills or
there was some sort
protests.
of chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, using this social unrest as the cover, but it had just been a coincidence up until now that it had coincided with the rain.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating.
No rain, no song on the radio.
Yeah. I didn't catch that. Oh shit. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So the things
That's
that they thought were the MO are not the MO.
Mm.
Fuck.
And then the next morning it is fully raining, and it's sort of a nod that they're always 3 steps behind. Mm-hmm. They're always wrong. And Suh is there on the crime scene, and he's fully aware that this is his fault because
this one is fucking that heartbreaking reveal with the Band-Aid is just
ugh. He arrives on scene, and you can tell it's really bad because people are throwing up. Everyone's really upset, and they're describing what's been done to her.
Yeah.
Several of these items have been put inside her.
Ugh.
This is all true.
All true. Yeah.
Yeah, and he cut her with the blade, which he didn't do to the other ones.
Yeah.
He just strangled them. I mean, but
Yeah, yeah.
there wasn't
And there was never mutilation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Strangulation.
Yeah. And he realizes who this girl is when they're pulling off her Band-Aid that he put on her. And this is the final straw for him. He can't take that.
And he covers her up as he leaves because it's like she's just a baby, man. And this guy did this thing to her, and now her body is going to be like a spectacle to coroners and police, and everyone's going to be thumbing through manila folders with her next to pictures of other dead girls. He's just so disgusted by it in that moment.
Yeah.
Oh, it's such a fucking heartbreaking scene. Just him covering the little
it's like this successful objectification of women. I'm realizing is like literally turning them into an object by killing them and turning them into a corpse and having them just become a piece of evidence in this chain.
Yeah, they call it product killers, not process killers. They enjoy the end result, not the actual act of killing.
Yeah.
It's fucking horrifying shit. Yeah, it's not fun. Not fucking fun, man.
So, is like, fuck this.
Yeah.
Fuck the process of doing things properly. He goes straight to Hyung-Yu's apartment because he knows where he lives, and Hyung-Yu's sleeping on the floor, and he kicks him in the face and takes him out to the train tracks by the tunnel.
This is
an epic scene.
The tunnel scene, dude, is so fucking well shot.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so well shot. Beautiful fucking silhouette.
It's an extremely Seven scene.
Yep.
You feel so trapped with them there. Like you just want this to resolve and them to get away from the danger.
Yeah. And he's beating the shit out of Hyung-Yu, and he's like, "Tell me you did it." And Hyung-Yu is like, "Yeah, I killed them all. Is that what you want to hear?"
It's gonna make this easier for you.
Yeah, and it's like he looks so guilty. And he's got, blood all over his face, and he's just like, yeah, it's probably him, but how do you know for sure?
Yeah. Let me use my shaman eyes.
Yeah. So is about to, he's got his gun, and he's, considering shooting this guy. Yeah. And Park runs up, and he's got the papers from America with the DNA. And, Hyung-Yu takes this opportunity.
Gotta get some answers.
He grabs a rock and he knocks the gun out of Suh's hand. And he's like, ow. And then they're like,
don't do that.
Well, documents never lie, so let's have a look. And Suh's he really needs this. He and Park both do. And Suh, as I take it, Suh is the only one who reads English.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he opens the document, and it basically says, the fingerprints and the semen, none of this stuff can be conclusively connected. So
the suspect isn't.
The result is unclear.
Yeah.
It's not even a no. It's just
it's
inconclusive.
Inconclusive, exactly.
And
no dice, dog.
Yeah, and just Suh can't fucking handle this. He's like, I don't need this document. It's a lie.
Yep.
Yep. And the score swells in that moment too. The score is so good in this movie.
Because you see just the fucking blatant role reversal. They swapped roles in the end.
Part of this is the first time we even see a gun come out, and it's even even the terrible police don't pull out their guns.
They just don't.
They just beat the shit out of them, but they never threaten to shoot them for sure.
Yeah, I will mention when he's reading this document, it is raining. There's rain all over all of them, but you can still tell that he's crying. Like, you can tell which of those drops are his tears.
Yep.
Some epic acting.
It's so fucking beautiful.
Yeah. And so I was like, don't care. I'm going to shoot him anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And Park is like handling the document. And he's like, what does it say? I can't read it.
It's lying to you. Don't worry.
Yeah. And like Park is like, let me try. He grabs Hungyo by the face and he's like, look in my eyes.
Let me try.
Look at me. And you get these
shaman eyes activate.
Yeah, and you get these great POVs of both of them like looking at each other.
Yeah.
And
fucking great shots, man.
Hyungyu, he looks so guilty. He's just got these dead killer eyes, but he's not saying a goddamn thing. And Park is like really looking, and he's like, I can't fucking tell. He's like,
and that's
fuck
kind
you.
of like the resolve at the end. It's like, oh, you know he was full of shit that entire time.
Yeah, he's just like, I can't tell. Just go. Like, so he's also like, they've both been crushed by the things they thought would never let them down. And then so I was like, I'm gonna shoot him in the face.
Fuck it.
Yeah. And Park grabs the gun and he like physically points the gun down to the ground. He's like, you can't just shoot people though. No one's that
Come
crazy.
on, bro. Like, you're being crazy right now.
Yeah, and then they're forced to get to back up because a train comes through the tunnel, and Hyungyu goes to one side, and the other two go to the other side, and they're looking through the train. And
he shoots though. He does let one off, but it looks like he got him too.
Yeah, after the train is gone.
Is it after the train?
Yeah,
I thought it was before.
Yeah, it's after.
The train passes, and then it's like he isn't there anymore, and they're like, oh, where'd he go?
Oh, that's right.
And he went down the black tunnel.
Yep, he went towards where the train came from.
And so I was like, fuck it, I'll shoot him right now. And he shoots and like there are bullets ricocheting around the tunnel, and like he's on the ground, and he's like, oh, I got him. And then he gets up.
And he just runs off.
And he's cuffed. And he just runs off into the dark.
Such a good fucking little fake out, though. It's such a good fake out.
They're like, oh, well, maybe he's dead. We don't have to worry about it. And from there, we're in 2003 now.
Yep, fast forwards.
From 1986. And this is... The opening scene is brightly colored. The whole film is dim and dark and dingy.
Yeah.
And this is bright and colorful again.
Like golden.
Yeah. And
it's so cute. You see that they ended up having kids together.
Park has married his girlfriend and they have 2 teenagers and they're eating breakfast. And Park is like, hey, son, did you stay up all night playing video games? Look in my eyes. Look at me. Yeah, your eyes are all bloodshot. I know what you did.
Which that's all it's been reduced to now. It's a dad trick.
Yeah, that's all it ever was.
That's all it ever was. It's a dad trick.
Yeah, his son is like, no, I didn't. And he's like, don't fucking lie to me. and his wife is like, he says he didn't. Believe him. And he's like, yeah, whatever. I gotta go. And you see he's a salesman now. And he's like in the back of a van with a bunch of juicers. He sells juicers. And
if you'll notice, he's wearing glasses.
Yeah, he's like older. Not wiser, but older.
Yeah, so his shaman eyes, quote unquote, were never really.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good catch.
I caught that one after watching someone break that down. I wish I could take credit, but yeah, I saw that and I was like, oh, that's a great point.
He's got the specs now. He's just an older dude with a tie. Yeah, and he's like talking on his phone, and they're driving through this area, and he's like, oh shit, stop the car. Because he realizes he's in the Gyeonggi province, and they're in that field where the first murder happened, and so he goes for a little walk in the golden, beautiful field.
It's gorgeous.
It's so beautiful.
Gorgeous.
And he walks over to the culvert, and he climbs down there, and he has a little look. He takes off the glasses, and he just peeks in there like he did the first time. And he's just looking, and like they give you a really nice long shot of the culvert, like just let you stare at the space.
It's so like again you get that claustrophobic feeling where it's just like the camera's in this hole, and you're looking at
it's like the body's still there. It's like it just happened.
Exactly.
And then there's this little voice. There's a little girl. She's like, "Is there something in there?" And he's like, "What?" And she's like, "What's in there?" And he's like, "I'm just looking." And she's like, "That's so weird because there was a guy here a little while back and he was doing the same thing. He was looking in there. And I asked him what he was looking for. And he said that he did something here once and he just wanted to come and take a look."
So good.
And Park is like, "Holy shit." And he's like, "What?
Wait a minute.
What did he look
What
like?"
did he look like, though?
And the girl's like, "Oh, he was sort of plain." And he's like, "In what way?" She was like, "Just ordinary."
Looked like an ordinary guy.
And he's just like crushed anew. He's like, "My God, that could be anybody."
Exactly.
And
then we get this.
And then he fucking looks down the barrel of the lens at us.
At the camera, bro. Fucking.
And he's like, "Is it you?"
Which
fucking beautiful.
Which hit so much harder in 2003 in a South Korean cinema when you're like, is he behind me?
Yeah.
And I read that the killer did see the movie.
He did see it.
So we did get the answer.
Awesome.
Okay, cool. Because we were wondering that. Okay.
And I read that Bong had been like, I really hope when he sees this that he feels like seen, not in a way that like justifies these things, but that he knows that like
he didn't get away with it.
Yeah, that like there's ripples even if you're not brought to justice, that like there's, you know, something has to come from this, you know. And the dude was like, "No, I just watched it like an ordinary movie. I didn't think anything special about it. I didn't feel anything watching this movie
that
about."
Makes sense. He can't feel anything.
He's legitimately a psychopath.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's just amazing that he did end up getting caught just like 3 years ago. Finally.
Yeah, at the time of this recording, it was a press release or press junket that he was doing for Parasite, Bong Joon-ho, and they let him know that he was caught, that the killer was caught. Which I don't know if we should give the real killer's name, but the real killer's name was Lee Chun-jae.
And he was a student demonstrator.
Yep.
And he'd already been in jail for quite some time
How fucked up is that?
Yeah.
for rape and murder.
Of his sister-in-law.
Yeah. Dude,
I was reading some statements from him where he was like, you know, because of the student demonstrations, like I was around a lot of people that the police wanted to talk to, and the police would like come question me all the time about them, but I would constantly be like, "Oh, is this going to be the time?" But like very casual.
He wasn't
like,
trying to hide.
Yeah, he was just like waiting to be found to get that, you know, Genesis, you know, Charlie Manson fame.
Exactly. Yep.
And they just never thought it was him.
And it's just coincidence. He said at one time he had like a bracelet or like a wristwatch, like a bloody trinket from one of the bodies in his pocket, and the cops stopped him for being out after curfew, and they grilled him for not having an ID, and then they just let him go.
Yeah.
God damn, that's some Zodiac shit, straight up.
So
like,
it's just ineptitude and coincidence, and it just feels like before I was like, I gotta look this up because there's got to be some truth to like the things that we're seeing here. Like I don't know why, but I just had a sense that there was, but just if it was just an art piece, you know, I feel like the statement is just that like you can't have justice within a broken system, and the idea that like, you know, these incompetent fools are going to find justice simply because that's the role that's been prescribed to them in society is just like so foolish and overly idealist. And even like it feels like it as well, you know, goes into the like no good cop trope as well, where it's just like even the guy who's like the good cop, he's just standing there watching them brutalize this, you know, disabled child for quite a while.
He only interrupts when something interesting is said.
Yep.
He's like actually taking advantage of the interrogation because he's waiting for something important to happen.
Yeah, it's still like, yeah, you're right. No good cop trope. Like, it's still ACAB, baby. It's still ACAB, baby.
And at the end of the day, it's just like, how can you ever have justice when things are like this fundamentally broken? When everyone knows that the cops just beat confessions out of people, you know?
1,000% Yeah.
Yeah, and the officers who interrogated at the time, a lot of them were charged. Now in 2019.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good. Fuck him.
And there was a guy who served 20 years for one of the murders.
Good.
Falsely.
Wow. Oh yeah, that's right. He was a copycat, right?
They thought it was a copycat because
killer.
it was a different. The killer had gone into a house and killed a girl. But they had Lee at the trial. They had the actual killer.
Yeah.
Give a confession at that guy's retrial in order to get him freed.
And he like apologized. He was like, "Hey, really sorry you had to go to jail for what I did.
My bad, bro. What do you fuck? Oh my god."
It's weird because when you read his like statements now, he's like, "Oh yeah, you know, like I really goofed when I raped and murdered those 15 girls. Like I wasn't thinking about, you know, like people's feelings and stuff. My bad." Like it's just it's horrific. It's just really
it's fucking disgusting, man. But I mean, it made for a phenomenal fucking movie. This was. I mean, talk about a mic drop ending. Like, that is literally one of the fucking most powerful shots I've ever seen.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's an ending that I'm sure people were, like, annoyed with in terms of, like, oh, well, they didn't catch the guy and we don't have answers. And the I enjoy that it breaks the formula so hard where it's like, it's not the kind of movie where the ending is saying, like, now go back through the film and think about it really hard and tell me who's the killer. It's literally just like, there are no clues, there is no evidence, there is no trail.
It's hopeless.
It's just these guys bungling things. The horror is the mistrial of justice, like that is real life, you know?
Yeah, exactly, 1,000%. So yeah, I mean, I absolutely love this movie. Do you guys want to rate this one now?
Oh, 6 out of 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm gonna have to give it a 6 as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna. That's a resounding 666, baby.
This guy didn't win an Oscar on a fluke. I'll tell you that.
Exactly.
This was his second feature film.
Fuck.
He was pretty new. He'd done some short films, but like overall, like maybe his fourth or fifth film.
The GOAT. That's it. He's the GOAT. That's it.
Yeah. I just like. I mean, I know it's called Memories of Murder, but like, to so successfully in that span of time be given such a sense of nostalgia for a thing I wasn't there for.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
It really does feel like all that time has passed, and just remembering it and it haunting you, and just being like, I wonder if I'd done something different.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
It's so successful.
That's what the title is playing on. Is exactly that. The fact that this is haunting people. This is a memory that's haunting everybody.
There's like multiple intersections where it's like if they had just like stopped and been like, okay, wait a minute, like, we didn't coach you on that one. What does this actually mean? But they're like so single-minded.
Yep.
That they're, and even Suh falls victim to it of like they're trying to connect these two dots so you know, vehemently that they're not seeing that they don't connect.
Yeah, exactly. They're trying to force a narrative into somewhere that, you know, there was never a story there to begin with. They're just trying to make the pieces.
Yeah, which just doesn't work with real life. But most of the time in a movie like this, you could go back and look and be like, oh, why is this guy here? Why is that there? Why is this scene have this like kind of vibe to it? Oh, it's probably this person. Yeah. But in real life, there's no amount of that.
Yeah, it's messy, life is.
There's only the mistakes you know you made.
Yes.
Yeah,
which is mishandling Kwong all around. If they had just treated him like a person, and if they had done their jobs like, you know, like they're supposed to. I was going to say like actual police, but they did do their jobs like actual cops do.
Yeah.
But like they're supposed to.
Yes.
Beautifully done.
So
Beautifully done.
so that brings us to the last segment here before we close out. My question for this week is very on theme. Have you ever had to rely on the police?
Oh, that's a good one.
I've been robbed at gunpoint twice, and a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, on my way home from work, I was assaulted in traffic, which I think both of you know about.
Yeah.
But in all three cases, when I was robbed at gunpoint, the first time I was 12 and the second time I was 18, and both of those times the cops were just like, hey, frankly, they're not here. We're not going to catch them. I'll write it down, but I'm not going to call you back. Like, I don't care. This isn't happening.
Yeah.
And then when I got assaulted, in the middle of these two guys beating me up, they broke my nose and I started bleeding. And they thought that, I think they thought that they hit me harder than they meant to or something, because they both kind of like backed up. Or like they just assumed the fight was over because I was bleeding so much.
Yeah.
And so I ran to the back of their car and pulled my phone out and I took a picture, and the driver had taken his shirt off when we were fighting, and he has like gang tattoos, and his face is in the picture, and their license plate is in the picture, and the make
It's
and the
all
model,
there.
it's all in the picture. I gave that to the police and they were like, so we looked it up and they haven't registered this car in 2 years. And I was like, so are you going to do anything? And they were just like, no, just telling you they haven't registered their car in 2
What
years.
does that do for me, bro?
But look at all these clues.
So yeah, so a year
so
later,
fucking annoying.
nothing has happened. So,
Fuck, bro, that's so aggravating.
the movie felt very true to life for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I mean, definitely. My ex had her car stolen, and like we had to like file a police report, which was fucking about as useful as you would imagine. Yeah,
we'll keep an eye out.
We'll keep an eye out. Yep, had to fucking pay like a couple $100 to get it out of a fucking impound lot. Ended up in like South Central. Somehow.
Yeah, like how was that your fault? How is that your problem? I just had some friends also have that happen. Their van was stolen and lived in, and then they had to go pay like over $1,000 to get it out of a lot. It's like, we didn't do this.
No, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, no, when we found it too, it was a bunch of like kids like crayon markings in the back seat, like there was like kids' shoes thrown around. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
What kind of a joyride was this?
Yeah, it was strange. But yeah, the cops were about as fucking useful as you'd imagine in that situation. And I mean, it's never not really. I mean, yeah, I don't know, man. Like they've been called for sure for like domestic disputes and shit in my life. Like growing up, watching my fucking dad lose his shit or whatever. Like uncles go off, and it's like you just see the cops kind of coming, like, hey, buddy, relax. All right. And then, that's literally all it ever was. And it was like, what the fuck good are you?
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, but it's never really been. I'm firmly on that. Yeah, the ACAB side over here. No mincing words. No, nothing. I just
Yeah.
I had my one and only traffic ticket expunged mysteriously by the cops. I was going through my town, and I was like maybe 9 or 10 over the limit. It was like a speed trap to begin with. It's like 25 in town.
Yeah, it's stupid.
And yeah, I got my speeding ticket, and then when I went to pay it at the local station, I arrived. I was like, I'm here to pay my ticket, and they're like, what ticket? And I was like, the ticket that
I did a crime. I'd like to pay now, please.
I did a crime. I'm here. This is my first. It's kind of exciting. I brought my checkbook. And they're like, yeah, no, that doesn't, we got rid of that.
What the
And
fuck?
I was like, what? I guess, it's such a small town. The mayor came over once to fix our internet.
Wow.
And
that's some wild
and
shit.
I guess he thought I was a nice kid, so like he made it go away.
That's so random.
It's so weird.
Random.
I'm just gonna say, it would be the white woman of the pod to have.
This was my fluffy white experience. Yeah,
because I've actually gone to one time I got pulled over and they were like, so your license was revoked 6 months ago, right? And I was like, excuse me? And they impounded my car and I had to pay like $3,000. And I to this day have no idea why my license was revoked. And I had to like go through all this shit to get my license back too.
Bro.
I have no idea what happened.
Fuck?
They just pulled me over and were like, by the way, get out of your car. It's getting towed right now.
wow.
And
Fuck.
I was like, well, can't my friend just like drive the car then? And they were like, nah, both of you get out, get whatever you want out of the car, but the car's getting towed.
Wow.
And
Oh my god.
and I had to just get out of my car and like call my parents and be like, hey, and I think I was like in my early 20s and I was just like, hey, I need help. Like I don't know what the fuck just happened. I was driving a friend to work. And so I took him to work and he went into work and I just went into the food court of these little outlets and was like, yo, I don't know what the fuck just happened.
Dude, I
That's a
think I got
nightmare.
robbed for my vehicle.
Were they really cops? Of course they're really cops.
That's fucking, yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Bro, that's, yeah.
I kid though, Evelyn. Like obviously you have no control over these things.
No, yeah, exactly.
No, I'm sure it was part of the pleasantness of the experience for sure, but just like such small town bullshit. Like technically it's also, it's corrupt. Like the fact that
Yeah, totally.
I technically broke the law and then they just decided that,
No, you
I
didn't.
didn't. Yeah.
What law?
Yeah. I was kind of like, are you guys sure you want to do that?
Are you?
It's only like, I don't know how much it was, $30 or $50. Like, are you sure you don't need the money
You don't need the money.
fix the sign or whatever the fuck is? Yeah. Fix the speed sign,
Yeah,
maybe.
exactly. I got a pothole that's a bit of a bastard on the way over to work every day.
Do you want my tax money? Yay or nay?
Yeah, goddamn.
Yeah, it's stupid.
That's wild, but anyway.
Yeah.
So the moral of the story:
Moral of the story is
no justice, no peace.
No justice, no
When the president comes to town, throw some Molotovs.
That's true patriotism.
Oh my God, dude. Fuck yeah. Well,
Wow.
thank you guys for joining us this week. This has been a lot of fucking fun. This episode was a lot more fun than I thought we were gonna have. Because again, going into this movie, we thought like it was gonna be a lot more like dense and dark.
I don't
it
remember
was
it being as funny as it is.
Yeah. It took us a minute for I think because I remember laughing a lot when I was watching it, but I think the horror of it just stuck out a lot more because it was so shocking. But it's like, most of this is like a 70% of comedy, a little horror just sprinkled on top.
This and Man Bites Dog will make an interesting double feature.
Double feature, man. If you can handle all that emotion in one day.
Because it's from the killer's side and then from their side. But then they both also have this sort of with the camera crew, how they become more and more enamored and part of the action. Yeah. It's like the same thing with Suh, where he's like this virtuous guy, but as time goes on, he becomes more and more debaucherous like them.
Graded down.
Yeah.
Give him a little time, he'll start drop kicking people.
Exactly. He'll take up the booty next.
Hey, that first kick was a good rookie
indicator,
effort.
Yeah, exactly. Dude. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Have we landed on the next pick? Because this was a topic of discussion for us before we started recording. So, next episode, we'll be back in 2 weeks. With another episode.
We're gonna be back with the first zombie film of the pod.
Buddy.
We're going back to France for the 2009 film sleeper hit La Horde.
Yeah, boy. I have recently watched this one. I picked it up just to see what all the fuss was about. It's a lot of fucking fun. It's a lot of fucking fun.
I'm looking forward
it's
to
a lot
it.
of fun.
It's more genuinely fun than most of the movies we've done till now. So this is a little bit of salami as a treat for our listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, if you guys would like to hear more from us, please continue to like and subscribe, and join us for all the fun on the socials. We're on Instagram at the Devil's Work Pod, on Facebook at the Devil's Work Podcast. You can email us if we're talking about reading reviews and stuff in the future. So if you got a review on a movie that we've done, if you got recommendations for us, anything, like that, if you want to email us for right now, you can go ahead and do that at the Devil's Work Podcast at gmail.com.
I think another good one would be if you have seen the movie that we're going to be covering. And can give us, a short review on that movie.
Yeah.
Like it would be fun to, if people have seen La Horde, give us their impressions, and maybe we could read out a few of those, like at the top or bottom of the pod.
Exactly, yeah. So we'd love to hear from you guys. Please let's get more interaction. You guys hear enough from us already, so let's hear from you guys.
Let's get the lead out.
Let's get the lead out. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Man, be careful out there. It's fucking dangerous. I don't know, man. Watch
Stay
this
out
movie.
of the fields.
Stay out of the fields.
You know what? I almost forgot to say. What would really take the edge off that station is a nice rum ham.
Hell yeah! All right, you guys. You guys take care.
Now we can end it.
Yeah.